outside tonight, cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy Monday to you, my buddy. Yeah, I turned you on.
All right. Happy Monday, Crudy. Good to see you in studio. It seems like it's been a very long time since we've had a chance to hang out, talk a little politics, Crudy. It just keeps getting crazier.
What happened to my microphone one over here? Who's been messing with my sexy microphone? I better be equally sexy here. But the real question of the day is not how sexy is Crudy. The question of the day is my president a Russian asset or just perhaps a unwitting fool, Putin's pawn? Which is it?
Couldn't it be both, Crudy? It's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. And the president was asked again today. And today, unlike the weekend, he gave an answer.
Now, of course, the president reacting to the New York Times bombshell. And the bombshell, Dom, was effectively the FBI opened an inquiry into whether Trump, our president, hashtag not my president, was secretly working on behalf of Russia. Oh my God. I mean, it's not like I don't believe it. It's not like I think that this is a reach from where we've been to date. But to see it in print in the paper of record like that, Dom, the old great lady, asking the very important question. Well, they don't ask the question. We ask the question. Is he an asset of Russia, Dom? And he's got some sort of answer. But over the weekend, no real clear denials.
He said lots of words. None of them were the word no.
Well, he attacked others reporting and things of that nature, but actually saying, no.
Not only others reporting, he attacked his political rivals. He attacked the Washington Post, the media.
Don't forget James Comey.
He attacked James Comey, of course. Cannot forget James Comey. Trump attacked everybody, which is what he is prone to do when, caught in a weird situation, kind of like when he was in Helsinki with Putin, asked about, whether or not, they were involved in the intelligence reports, and he went off on a little tangent about Hillary's servers.
Dominic, wasn't there also reporting this weekend, Washington Post, I believe? There are no notes of any of the meetings face-to-face between Poot and Donald Trump.
Extraordinary measures taken for specific leaders, specifically Putin. What, he actually went back to the translator and asked for copies, their copy of the notes?
Took the original copy of the notes, is my understanding. Didn't want those out there for, public digestion.
And not only does the media, the fourth estate, the citizens of this great country not know what occurred between Putin and Trump, but even his own aides within the White House.
Senior advisors, Secretary of State.
Nope.
Nobody knows what exactly the perhaps Russian asset or perhaps Russian stooge Donald Trump said to Poot. But today, lots of denials. He's denying today, is he not, Dom?
He is. Let's get to it. Fancy Brian, your president doesn't work for Russia, cut 14.
I never worked for Russia, and you know that answer better than anybody. I never worked for Russia. Not only did I never work for Russia, I think it's a disgrace that you even asked that question because it's a whole big fat hoax. It's just a hoax.
It's just a hoax.
Big fat hoax. Is that him discussing himself in third person once again? Now, from his perspective, I think he envisions himself more as an independent contractor.
Well, exactly. Did he get a W-2 at the end of the year?
A 1099 more likely.
Well, that's only on the reportable income, Crudy. That's not reported income.
And of course, how do the Russians pay back Donald Trump? Well, through cash real estate deals to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. No, he doesn't directly work for them. They didn't sign a paycheck off to Donald Trump. They do better.
Maybe
they buy his real estate at exorbitantly high prices. Leave a little something there for the developer, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, and of course, to provide a funnel of capital through Deutsche Bank, through investment holdings, funneling hundreds of millions of dollars. No one just gives money anymore.
He didn't say, well, what'd he say? I didn't work for Russia. Didn't say I didn't make deals with Russia, perhaps criminal conspiracies, if you will, Tom, but he didn't work for Putin.
Did you ever act on Russia's behalf ahead of, this country's or even your own?
No.
A bit. But it's all just a big fat hoax.
That was a hoax, right?
Let's keep going down. We got lots of Donald Trump sound. You got to be so proud of this man, this Russian asset, or perhaps Russian stooge that we call our president. Hashtag not my president. Let's play Cut 15, more Donald Trump from earlier today, addressing the Washington Post article.
It's a lot of fake news. That was a very good meeting. It was actually a very successful
Talk about the meeting with Putin.
And I have those meetings with everything. I just know nothing about it. It was a very, very successful meeting. We talked about Israel. We talked about the pipeline that Germany is paying Russia a lot of money. I don't think it's appropriate. We talked about that. Talked about many subjects. But I have those meetings one-on-one with all leaders, including the president of China, including Prime Minister of Japan, Abe. We have those meetings all the time. No big deal.
I bet the Russians take notes about their meetings with Donald Trump.
I'm pretty sure there's a recording somewhere. No big deal, though, Crudy. No big deal. Does this with everyone. But, of course, does not address the fact that circumstances are different when he meets with Putin. And he actually said on Janine Pirro's show on Saturday that he no big
Judge
deal.
Janine.
He would release the conversation. I think she said, release the conversation. Yeah, no big deal. I will. So do it. Let's see it. Let's hear it.
He's under conversation audit. As soon as you can't release the conversational transcripts when you're under audit.
I totally would, but maybe sometime in the future we'll see what happens.
I'm just wondering, is the Trump financial audit done yet? Is he still under audit? Can we see his taxes now?
Counterintelligence and criminal investigation and IRS audits and foundation investigations and business investigations and political dealing investigations. Are any of those considered like audits?
Believe me.
Political witch hunts, more likely. Dom, we've got to find guest. A wonderful resource in the 3 o'clock hour. Going to help us sort it all out. He's James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. He's a friend of ours. James calling in today. Jim, I did drive down to Milwaukee just to host you today.
Come on, Jim, come in the studio. We got
Maybe
plenty of
if you'd have known, he'd have made a special trip.
Of course he would have.
But we've got more Trump sound, and let's get back to it. I believe Cut 15 we are up to. No, we've had that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do Cut 16. What about the national emergency? The government shut down, right? Are we 3.5 weeks?
Longest
the government's been shut down.
Government shutdown in history. Way to go, Trump.
Have we solved that problem? Are we close to solving that problem? Are we in negotiations to solve this problem?
This is all part of the negotiation, Crudy.
The Trump shutdown?
It's 3-level chess. It's hard to explain. A lot of people don't know how it works.
It's almost like, he's being purposefully chaotic, either to distract from the headlines of the day.
Yes.
Or perhaps to do the bidding of Putin.
Yes, that's the thing about
Putin's
chaos.
Bitch.
Chaos begets chaos. Chaos here, chaos there, chaos everywhere.
Well, he's not looking to declare a national emergency, not until some more indictments rain. Cut 16, if you would, Fancy Brian.
I'm not looking to call a national emergency. This is so simple, you shouldn't have to. Now, I have the absolute legal right to call it, but I'm not looking to do that because this is too simple. The Democrats should say we want border security. We have to build a wall, otherwise you can't have border security. and we should get on with our lives. The Democrats are stopping us, and they're stopping a lot of great people from getting paid. All they have to do is say, we want border security. That automatically means a wall or a barrier.
And you'll never take another hostage again?
I don't believe it.
Or 800,000 federal employees hostage, or perhaps the entire, United States? I mean, he's burned. We the people have burned more money during the federal shutdown than he was seeking for his wall. Just saying.
That's terrible.
And the deficit stopped growing during the shutdown, right?
No, not quite. The fiscal conservatism, the tax cuts, the trickle down doesn't seem to be bringing in a whole lot more revenue. Our deficits continue to grow.
Now, Fancy Brian, want to get back to the FBI counterintelligence investigation. This cut 17, that's a couple minutes, right?
Oh yeah, that's almost 3 minutes. A tirade. Trump kind of just going off.
Well, let's get to it. So there's still time in this segment. You asked for it. No one asked for it. Donald Trump, he defends himself, I guess.
The people that started that investigation are McCabe, who's a proven liar and was fired from the FBI, are Lisa Page, who was forced to leave the FBI, and her lover, Peter Strzok.
He loves saying that.
We got their text messages, and what they said in those text messages was shocking when you talk about bias. And also Comey. And I guess they started it because I fired Comey, which was a great thing I did for our country. So the people doing that investigation were people that have been caught that are known scoundrels. I guess you could say they're dirty cops. And I'll tell you what, it is so unfair what's happened to the FBI in terms of the men and women working in the rank and file of the FBI. I know many of them. These are great people, and they are so embarrassed by their leadership. I have never seen a turnaround in a bureau or agency like I have with the FBI. They are so embarrassed. I think 12 people now have been terminated, and others, if you look at what's happening, others are going to go. What happened at the FBI? So when you say, should I have confidence in the FBI or intelligence agencies? When I see war and I see all of these people, when I see Lisa and her lover and their notes and their texts get captured, and you see what they said about me, having nothing to do with the investigation, let me tell you something. When people see that, you have an angry country, because the whole thing is a hoax. It's a big hoax, and it's very bad for our country. So what happened with the FBI?
A hoax.
I have done a great service for our country when I fired James Comey, because he was a bad cop and he was a dirty cop, and he lied. He really lied. And all you have to do, wait a minute, and all
Don't
you
encourage
have to do
him.
is take a look at the crooked Hillary Clinton investigation, where they brought her on the July 4th weekend. July 4th. They didn't swear her in. They didn't do any tapes. They didn't do anything. They just let her go. And she mostly said, I don't know. She didn't know anything. Just like James Comey a week ago. He was interviewed by Congress. And, unfortunately, people didn't see it because the Republicans with Paul Ryan, unfortunately, they didn't put him out there. But what he said was either he's a bad liar or he's grossly incompetent. Unfortunately, people didn't say it, but you can read the transcript.
Wow.
If that didn't convince you, I don't know what would. Donald Trump likes the term lover.
If you see what's going on around here, and Peter Strzok, her lover. You know who Trump's lover is? Lover was? Stormy Daniels.
Amongst many.
Amongst many. Poor lovers.
Let's not forget the playmate.
McDougal?
Yes. I don't want to get the wrong first name. I've tried to avoid saying her first name. We are the Devil's Advocates. We love when you join us on the phones at 844-967-2789. We'll be right back. It's a big Monday show.
for. I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me.
In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
That was a hoax, right?
No. Yes. A bit.
I am sick and tired of big power brokers telling voters what's important instead of the other way around. So, I joined the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. It's a community of like-minded local progressives where the members help determine what issues are important. And with the aid of professional organizers and some of the top progressive strategists in Wisconsin, we make the powers that be take notice and action. We're working on fair elections, the climate crisis, immigrant rights, electing progressive candidates, and more. Plus, we have a campaign called Radioactive that supports this station and Real Resistance Radio. So, come help us reclaim our power as voters.
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white, and I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
Women want them. Men want to be them. Tom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on the YouTubes and Facebook pages. We are on Twitter at Devil Radio. And the phone lines, talk or text, toll free 844-967-2789.
Dominic, you keep complaining about getting a little puffy over the holidays. Yeah. I thought maybe you'd want to do some calisthenics.
Yeah, some dancing, burn some calories.
Fancy Brian's doing them in the booth in there. Sort of some sexy deep knee bends. Ooh. Although sexy certainly in the eye of the beholder.
Is there a reason we're playing this song?
Sort of.
Crudy likes it and wants to dance.
Perhaps we should have played We Are the Champions, because the national champion Clemson Tigers football team going to the White House today. And how honored they must be to go spend a little time with Cheeto Jesus, the first president that's Clemson orange. I just thought of that.
It goes so well.
It does. It does. So anyways, we've got a cut that I think plays well. Donald Trump will welcome the national championship team, college football I reference, will welcome them to the White House. And one must wonder, big football, strapping lads.
National champions.
They're going to feed them, right?
You're at the White House, right?
Some sort of sit-down dinner, perhaps a big steak for each of the guys.
Perhaps not.
Here is what Donald Trump intends to serve to the Clemson Tigers, U.S. national champions in football, cut 11.
The Clemson championship team, the national championship team, will be coming tonight. It'll be exciting. A very great team, an unbelievable team. They'll be coming tonight, and I think we're going to serve McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King's with some pizza. I really mean it. It'll be interesting, and I would think that's their favorite food. So we'll see what happens. But they're coming tonight, the national champions.
You know why he thinks... You know why he thinks it would be their favorite food? Because those are all his favorite foods.
Come on! on. McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and some pizza?
Hashtag health food.
What do you think they're just these little college kids? Number one, some of these folks are huge. I mean, and how you going to keep the fast food warm for these folks? And they're coming to the White House. Okay, give them a steak.
Come on, man, you're stealing my premise. I mean, think about that. They're going to have hundreds of heat lamps in the back.
Oh, my God.
Are the fries going to be fresh? Because without some fresh fries, it's going to be terrible.
Forget it. Maybe. Does the government shutdown mean there's no chef or cooks in the White House right now? At least not for these kinds of things. I'm just wondering. I mean, if the switchboard isn't getting answered, maybe there's no one around to cook these guys some food.
Come on, man. Golden arches. That's as presidential as this man gets.
844-967-2789. Anything else? We want to take some calls.
Let's take some calls.
All right, Wisco, Paul, you're up. Thanks for calling today. Happy Monday. What are your thoughts?
Thanks for taking my call. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, two words come to mind, Benedict Arnold. And I can't help but think that Walker, Ryan, and Previs are all complicit in this. This guy he's off the rails now. This is actually spooky. And maybe even Johnson. I don't know what you guys think, but I think the cake is baked. He's a treasonous. So thanks for taking my call, gentlemen. Have a good day.
All right, let's go, Paul. What should we do with a treasonous president?
And as talk radio host, you hate to encourage hyperbole from the audience. It seems like we should somehow rein in this conversation, but it's so appropriate. And we've got some sound from Rojo. We'll save that till the next segment, perhaps. Let's take one more caller at least, Tom.
Pete from Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling. Happy Monday. What do you got, Pete?
Hey, Pete.
Yes, good to talk to you guys. Thanks for taking the call. It's really strange about how he keeps criticizing people like this. I've never heard a president, who's a real true president, criticize people like this man has. I mean, he's got no bounds on calling people liars and traitors himself. And what the heck? If Putin were sitting there in his spot, he would be doing exactly what Trump is doing.
Thanks for the call, Pete. Sorry about that. Yeah, how would you tell the difference between, Putin's own actions in that role and how Trump is behaving right now?
Max Boot at the Washington Post, conservative columnist, wrote like 18 different things that Trump seems very guilty about. And at the end, and we'll read that piece or parts thereof later, really couldn't find any defensible position for Donald Trump to take.
It's not getting any better for the president, certainly for the Republicans who continue to support him, Ron. I'm talking to you about that, Ron.
I hope Doritos are on the menu tonight. It just wouldn't be a well-rounded meal without some Doritos and maybe some Red Bulls and some Diet Coke. Come back with us, because they're eating healthy. 844-967-2789, more Devils.
I started on cleanup just like you guys. But now, see, I'm washing lettuce.
I eat because I'm unhappy.
5-9, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
Well, I'm going to take a nice long rest now. I can stop rolling over in my grave now that Walker is no longer governor. Thank you, Real Resistance Radio.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Bocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Yesterday on CNN, Senator Ron Johnson, who was criticized for spending the 4th of July in Russia with other Republican senators, defended the president against allegations he concealed details of meetings with Vladimir Putin. The suspect in the Barron County kidnapping and murder case is making his first appearance in court today. And the partial government shutdown is affecting families in the Resistance Radio listening area. On Saturday, members of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists Union picketed outside Mitchell International Airport to draw attention to the dangers the shutdown is posing to airline passengers. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison. Tonight, cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Kids Radio Show. Gonna keep you healthy here, Gary. If you want to stay healthy, you better keep my microphone on.
Oh, who's calling the tunes here, man? What happened?
I think that's my third request of the day. They're my requests.
And
let's just say that again.
They are my request. I have made all three of the requests today.
I'll take the mantle, Dominic. This will be Crudy's music. What? Any particular reason on this one?
Big fan of the Village People. What can I say?
Hey, all right.
First album I ever owned, Village People double album.
Like record, like
yes,
wax,
vinyl.
Wow.
It includes hits like Macho Man, In the Navy, YMCA, and my favorite, perhaps, Sleazy. Reminds me of the president. There is a tune on the first Village People double album, Sleazy. Donald Trump, a little sleazy, Dom. Ron Johnson.
Now, I've been working for the last couple of weeks, a couple times a week, getting back
trying
and forth,
trying to get Ron,
trying to get him back in studio on schedule. So hopefully, if he makes time for CNN Jake Tapper, you think he'd find some time for the Devil's Advocate.
So he went on the fake news CNN, but he can't find time for this fine local product?
Come on.
We're kind of a big deal.
People know us.
Jake Tapper, though, works out.
I work out.
Can't tell.
Come on, man. Look.
You're hiding it well.
Baggy pants, baggy shirt.
Let's get to the appearance of Ron Johnson on Jake Tapper. Jake from Milwaukee, I think, referenced your senator and mine, Ron Johnson, a relatively frequent guest on this program, Dom. But Rojo went out on the Jake Tapper, and of course, you got to ask him, what about the Russian meetings? Now, I find it quite strange that Ron Johnson is the chairman of the HISGAC. He has subpoena power.
Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee.
And I've asked him through the course of time, why have you not investigated Trump's interactions with Russia? Hell, why haven't you investigated the stormy? Well, he doesn't want to duplicate the efforts of some other committee.
Plenty of investigations already going on.
And if you did an actual investigation, you might find something that you don't want to talk about. Cut 80, if you would. Ron Johnson, your pal and mine, on Jake Tapper.
I have no firsthand knowledge of what the facts are here. I do know that President Trump was burned earlier by leaks of other private conversations, so I could certainly understand his frustration from that standpoint. But you said earlier, this is not a traditional president. He has unorthodox means, but he is president of the United States. It's pretty much up to him in terms of who he wants to read into his conversations with world leaders. That's just the basic fact.
It is rather unorthodox to be the president of the United States and at the same time Putin's bitch.
And he is chosen. Apparently no one gets access to his conversations with the foreign power. I'm sure they don't take notes either.
No.
We're at a no-notesy meeting, right?
Rojo on Jake Tapper, are you concerned that the Kremlin knows more than we do? 81, please, Brian.
I mean, in the end, I'm going to judge this president based on his actions. As you said earlier, we have increased sanctions. We have begun providing lethal defensive weaponry as well as training to Ukrainians so they can defend their territorial integrity. The jury will be out on other actions this president will or will not take.
But the sanctions, those came from Congress.
Oh, right.
Those didn't come from the Trump administration per se. He was pushing back on the sanctions.
And he actually, I mean, the Congress passed them with such numbers that they would be able to override Trump's veto if he chose to do so. So he was pretty much forced into the Russian sanctions by Congress.
Dominic, we could override the president's veto for reopening the government. Let's not forget there was a unanimous consent among senators to reopen the government before Trump decided that wasn't his plan, because Rush Limbaugh says, don't do it that way, Trump. I mean, it's great that right-wing talk radio has closed down the government. And Rush Limbaugh went on vacation. I tuned in this morning. He's been off for a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah?
Hadn't been reading anything. Very refreshing.
Went to Puerto Rico, go see Hamilton with the Dems? Where's he at?
I don't know. Wasn't it Judge Janine accusing Nancy Pelosi of being in Puerto Rico? And then it turns out Nancy Pelosi was in D.C. working. She and Trump should have gotten together this weekend and reopened the government.
That'd been a great idea. Let's hear more. Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin on CNN. Jake Tapper apparently thinks they've been very tough on Russia. 82.
In the end, you just have to, basically judge him on his actions. We defeated basically ISIS. We've taken away that caliphate. We were all concerned about a precipitous pullout. Now that's going to be conditions-based. We can certainly attack ISIS and continue to attack them from positions in Iraq. So again, I will wait to see. But I've seen pretty strong actions on the part of this administration against Russia. They realize Russia is a threat. And I think we have been, by and large, responding to that threat with strength and resolve, which is what we need to do.
So Rojo's taking credit for the president not precipitously pulling out of Syria, but the president's plan was to precipitously pull out of Syria, and he's been, restrained, if you will, by even the John Boltons of the world, right. The war hawks. And I think John Bolton's looking for justification to go into Iran next.
He apparently, last year asked the Pentagon to draw up some Iran attack plans? Great.
It's never too early to start drawing up your next set of war plans.
Of course not. I mean, that's what, preemption is all about, planning, Crudy.
Jake Tapper did have a response regarding the pullout of Syria. 82A, if you'd be so kind, Fancy Brian.
Well, you also mentioned the U.S. withdrawal from Syria, which is something that I think Russia applauded. They don't want the U.S. in Syria.
Minor details there.
Cut 83, Rojo.
Yeah, I heard an awful lot of innuendo from Senator Warner, who's on the Intelligence Committee, and has a lot more knowledge about this than I do. And that's part of my frustration. I wish the Mueller investigation would come to conclusion and he could issue his report. I quite honestly wish the Senate Intelligence Committee would move more expeditiously and provide us information in terms of what they found. We're almost 2 years in this investigation. I have not seen any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. I have seen evidence of collusion between Democrats and Russia with the Steele dossier. We still don't have the information on that. So there are a host of questions outstanding on this on all sides of the issue.
Yeah, it's almost like the chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs should, I don't know, issue a subpoena and try to get down to the bottom of the question.
Dominic, the Steele dossier he references. Now, they keep talking about Democratic collusion with Russia. And my only conclusion possible is that they mean the Steele dossier. Somehow that constitutes
He specifically states
collusion.
the Steele dossier in that statement.
And I would again point towards the reporting our friend Kenneth Vogel at the New York Times. Conservative website first funded anti-Trump research by firm that later produced dossier. I'd like to read from this briefly. This reporting, October 27, 2017. The Washington Free Beacon, a conservative website funded by a major Republican donor, first hired the research firm that months later produced the Democrats' the salacious dossier describing ties between Donald J. Trump and the Russian government, the website said on Friday. The Free Beacon, funded in a large part by the New York hedge fund billionaire Paul Singer, and I would remind those that don't watch as closely as we do, Paul Singer, also a big Scott Walker donor. During the recall, when there were no caps, Paul Singer gave Scott Walker $250,000. It's a lot of ching. And Paul Singer was funding the opposition research against Donald Trump. He was effectively a never-Trumper. And the Free Beacon, this supposed conservative website, well, they had hired out opposition research on a number of the candidates. And it wasn't until Donald Trump basically rolled the field until May of 2016 that Paul Singer said, well, I'm done paying you. Talking about Fusion GPS.
Because now Trump's going to be the Republican nominee.
And eventually Paul Singer gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration committee. So, they made friends again.
Oh, yeah, that's under investigation, too, the inauguration committee.
Well, that's a whole different
go
topic
ahead.
for a different conversation, Don. But I would point out this collusion that we've heard talked about was inspired. The genesis really was the funding of Paul Singer and the Free Beacon. The Scott Walker donor, the never-Trumper guy, looking for, a harbor in the storm, if you will, from Donald Trump. And it was only at a later date that Hillary Clinton, through Mark Elias and through this third-party law firm,
Perkins Coie,
picked up and paid and carried forth, and apparently that is the definition, according to Ron Johnson and Donald Trump, of collusion. And my only question is, when Trump Jr. and Manafort and Kushner got sucked into that Trump Tower meeting, because
with Veselnitskaya,
what was the offer? I mean, they kept talking about the dirt on Hillary Clinton,
yes.
and they keep talking about the fact that Hillary colluded with the Russians. And my implication, my only thought is, I'm trying to tie this all together. I'm trying to think, what do they think they know about Hillary Clinton? And the only conclusion I keep coming to is the Russians kept telling them, we've been colluding with Hillary Clinton. We'll give you the dirt. Just show up at the meeting. Tell you what, we'll come to Trump Tower.
Well, and in that colluding, when you say that, I mean, and again, Fusion GPS, once they got off the payroll of Paul Singer and the Washington Beacon, whatever that website was.
The Free Beacon.
The Free Beacon. Once they started getting paid by, call it, the Dems, well, that's when Fusion GPS went out and hired Steele. And that's when
Steele.
And Christopher Steele, who, basically came up with all the information, this raw data essentially for the Steele dossier. And in that, he had conversations with folks in Russia. Now, perhaps those conversations that Steele had with folks in Russia, perhaps tied to the government, was the collusion that they're trying to bring forward. I mean, we're going to have to ask Ron specifically what he means. But when he brings up the Steele dossier, yes, there was some conversations that Steele had with Russians while on the payroll of Fusion GPS, who was getting paid by the Clinton organization.
But if the implication is the simple act of paying for the opposition research somehow means that Hillary Clinton colluded with Russia, well, by comparison, what the hell did Donald Trump do? I mean, there's so much evidence. Again, we'll read the Max Boot article. We'll share with you. You're going to have to stick around for that. We've also got a fine guest coming up in the next hour. Former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. He'll help us sort it all out. Tom.
But when Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson says, I don't see any evidence of collusion. So what do you call then, Senator, the Trump Tower meeting? What do you call the redaction snafu from last week when it was found out that apparently the campaign manager for Donald Trump was sharing polling data with his Russian cohorts, Kalimnik? I mean, if that's not, I'm not even saying conspiracy at this point, but you need to then define for me what collusion is. But if taking texts from Russians about getting dirt on Hillary and having the meeting and if handing over polling data to Russian associated people, how is that not, if nothing else, the definition of collusion?
Benghazi.
Let's hear a few more from Trump before we get to the break.
I mean, and one quick aside. Wasn't Benghazi like 4 years?
It was a long investigation, yes.
And their conclusions, Ron Johnson did his own subpoena-led investigation, right? He found so much criminality there, right? I'm just saying.
He wrote a report. Let's keep going. Ron Johnson on Jake Tapper, CNN Saturday, yesterday, this weekend. Aren't you concerned about Trump maybe working for Russia? Cut 83.
Yeah, I heard an awful lot of innuendo from Senator Warner, who's on the Intelligence Committee and has a lot more knowledge about this than I do.
Yeah, let's keep going. Rojo.
And we need, the American people need we need the information on this so we can get past the innuendo. We can actually deal with facts because we have serious issues facing this nation. And it's not good that we have this cloud hanging over any administration, whether it's this one or previous administrations or next administrations. We need the information, and it's been too long being developed. We need the reports. We need these things concluded.
Yeah, I'd like to get some indication myself, Tom.
Sure. Absolutely.
But this is a little unprecedented, right, Senator? I mean, Ron can see that if true, this reporting, this allegation, this evidence that seemingly is right there in the public purview, Dom, we don't have to go digging through the Mueller investigation to see how Donald Trump has been reacting to Russia since before he got elected. Hell, since the 1980s.
Right. It's really all right there. Senator Ron Johnson on Jake Tapper addresses the Manafort-Trump Tower thing. Cut 85.
We also know Democrats paid for the Steele dossier.
Right.
And we've seen all kinds of corruption within the FBI. Andrew McCabe took over the FBI after that. He's now been fired because he lied to the FBI's own investigators. So, no, we've seen all kinds of nefarious activity here that I want to get to the bottom of, but we can't as long as the Mueller investigation continues to rumble on without a conclusion. So we need the information, we need these investigations concluded so that the American people understand exactly what happened so we can move on and start addressing the serious issues facing this nation.
Now, let's not forget, secret societies. Ron was out there to overconflate what may have been contained as a joke in the email between what's Trump like to call them? Lovers. Lisa Page and Peter Strzok.
Yep, lovers.
Now, they were removed from the investigation very early on. So even if any of this is true, they were not empowered ongoing to have an influence upon the outcome of the investigation as quickly as Mueller was instituted as special counsel. Strzok and Page were removed from their positions.
Well, and Steele had a relationship with the FBI, so they knew what was going on. Of course they knew. I mean, come on. Think about all the information out there. The phone calls with the Sergeys, former National Security Advisor Flynn. He was gone in 28 days? I mean, he was on the horn talking to the Russians.
Pled guilty.
Yes.
For lying to the FBI.
I mean, did you forget about that little one? There is just so much. It's a little frustrating because, I don't have it all on a notepad and on the wall with a flow chart, but perhaps we need that. I bet you Mueller's got a pretty cool room full of all that.
I hear he's got a beautiful mind. Just like me. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Your contribution, always welcome here. I think Max Boot did a fine job in his column at the Washington Post. We'll get to that in the 3 o'clock hour. And once again, James Santelle, a fine former U.S. attorney, joining us at 3:30. And if you'd like to share with your friends, if you know somebody's at work today, tell them podcast, Devil's Advocates Radio Network, WIDARNWI, or make it simple on them. Tell them go find it at crudeanddom.com, my preferred version, although I hear it also works at domandcrute.com.
Thanks, Tom.
And of course, we always stream live 24/7 at darnwisconsin.com. Come back with us. More Devils.
Are you now, or have you ever worked for Russia?
You're presuming that all the information you have there is completely factual.
I know nothing about Russia.
I have no firsthand knowledge of what the facts are here.
Over time, facts develop. That's what investigations do.
I'm not an expert on the facts yet. I'm getting there.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is. Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We are on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line is open. You can join us at 844-967-2789. Be like Jake from Milwaukee. Thanks for calling today, Jake. Happy Monday. What do you got for us?
I wonder if Ron Johnson likes being called the stupidest senator in the United States. Anyways,
would anyone like being called the stupidest anything? I mean, of course, it's got to hurt his feelings a little. But I tell you what, Jake, I saw Senator Ron Johnson. I was walking him through a building one time, and a nice lady walked up to him. "Are you Senator Ron Johnson?" And he's like, "Yes." And he handed out one of his... Then he was giving away the hologrammed business cards.
Very fancy cards.
They didn't actually have any contact information, but they were shiny and they were like three-dimensional. Super cool. Like the senior photo he always wanted. And he gave her one and handed it to her, and she said, I hate you, Ron Johnson. And he took it in stride. I mean, but who wants to hear that sort of criticism? Certainly not me, Jake.
Well, I would, if I was Ron, I'd rather be called the stupidest senator rather than a complicit traitor guilty of complicity and treason to help Donald Trump out. So, it's to that point with this.
Ron will always be a no on impeachment. He's a team player. I'm not sure if the team's
I don't buy it, Jake.
Republican or Russia, but he's a team player. He's always going to be a no on impeachment.
Jake, I think that just like Nixon, sooner or later that weight will get too heavy and they're going to have to cut and run.
Not for Ron, man. He is. I agree with you that a lot of senators will, but not Ron Johnson. Because Ron Johnson is a true believer. He, in fact, I bet is so giddy at this government shutdown and forcing people to work without pay. I bet you he's just squiggly all inside. I'm sure.
I don't think that's entirely true, Jake, but I could understand why you might feel that way. We do have a little bit of sound on Ron on the shutdown. Let's play it for the people. Thanks for the call, Jake.
Let's start with cut number 88 on the shutdown. Ron Johnson on CNN, Jake Tapper.
And the easiest solution to the shutdown, just give President Trump the money for the mandate
give what he wants.
To the American public. Let's face it, as a candidate, this is what he talked about. If there was a mandate he can claim from his election, it is better border security, keeping this nation safe. Democrats have voted for this in the past. They're being total hypocrites. It's easy. This could be solved in 15 minutes, as the president has said. Just fund the barriers, which we need.
Well, what about the mandate from the midterm elections, Ron? I mean, it was there.
The people don't want this. The newest polling indicates people don't want a wall. Like 53% of people are blaming the shutdown on Trump, as rightly they should. Like 29% blaming it on the Dems. 56% of Americans, Ron, your constituents, say they don't want no wall. We don't need a stinking wall. Even Ron stood right where you were standing and said, we don't need a literal wall. We just need some border security money. Well, no doubt the Democrats would also do that, but you've got to compromise on things like DACA and perhaps immigration in general. You got to have comprehensive reform. That's where it breaks down for the Republicans.
Ron Johnson continuing on regarding the national emergency, cut 89.
A better solution would be to pass our Shutdown Fairness Act, which is going to pay those individuals that are being forced to work because they're essential. So I've got a piece of legislation, got about 5 co-sponsors already. We'll introduce it tomorrow, but it'll actually pay those workers that Senator Warner's concerned about. So hopefully Mitch McConnell will bring that up. Hopefully Democrats will support it. Hopefully President Trump can sign it so at least those individuals get paid.
Well, at least Ron's giving us all a lot of hope.
And last one.
And thoughts and prayers.
On the national emergency.
How did those spend?
I would hate to see it. Using that act, it would be, in this instance, would be a far larger act than has ever occurred in the past. So I'd prefer not, primarily because if we do that, it's going to go to court and the wall won't get built. So I actually want to see this wall get built. And so I want to keep pressure on Democrats to actually come to the negotiating table in good faith and fund what they've supported in the past.
But Ron stood right there, right freaking there, and told us it's not a virtual wall.
It's not a virtual wall?
No.
It's not a real wall? It's a real wall?
No, it is not a real wall. It's not a brick and mortar wall.
Okay,
there is no reason for a wall. Sorry if I'm being unclear. But this senator from the great state of Wisconsin is being a little unclear because he calls the Democrats hypocrites. You guys voted for wall security in the past.
Didn't the Senate just unanimously vote to open the government before, and then they
Ron voted.
Yes.
I think he was a yes on that. That's a strange yes for Ron. Come back with us. It's always a little strange up in here. We are the Devil's Advocates. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio. The phone line's open and toll free. 844-967-2789.
I'm a very honest person, frankly.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-2 266-5660. Tell them you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Embarrassing question. Airport delays. I'm Mike Moss.
I never worked for Russia.
President Trump responding to a New York Times report that the FBI grew so concerned about the president's relations with Russia, it looked into whether he was working for Russia. Correspondent Laura Jarrett reports there is also concern about what the president may have discussed in a number of meetings with Vladimir Putin.
Greg Miller of the Washington Post says officials say there is no detailed record, even in classified files, of Trump's interactions with Putin on at least 5 locations over the past 2 years.
Some members of Congress are now looking into trying to get an interpreter to testify about the material discussed between Trump and Putin. 13-year-old Jamie Kloss has told police how she managed to get away from the man that murdered her parents and took her hostage for 88 days in Wisconsin. Here's correspondent Jean Caceres.
He said it was going to be gone for 3 or 4 hours, and she was under that bed. She said she was able to push away the boxes and the weights. She got out. She found a pair of his shoes, put them on, got out of the house. And that is when she finally found a lady walking her dog. And she walked up to her and she said, "I'm Jamie."
The suspect, 21-year-old Jake Patterson, has admitted to the killings and kidnapping. President Trump is again blaming Democrats for the government shutdown over border wall funding.
The government remains shut down for one reason and one reason only. The Democrats will not fund border security, our safety, our national security.
The partial shutdown is now in a record 24th day. Unpaid TSA workers are calling in sick and causing airports to have to reduce the number of security checkpoints that are open, causing longer lines and delays for travelers. On Wall Street, the Dow down 87, S&P down 13. I'm Mike Moss.
Here's some great...
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because every single day we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
Has issued an emergency call for blood donors. Correspondent Clayton Neville says fewer blood drives and busy holiday schedules have led to blood shortages nationwide.
A donation shortfall over the winter holidays is prompting the call for blood donors to give now to prevent a blood shortage from affecting patient care. Jan Hale is with the Red Cross.
Right now we have a 3-day supply of most blood types, and I can tell you that blood products are being distributed to the hospitals faster than the donations are coming in.
Hale says during the weeks of Christmas and New Year's, about 1,300 fewer blood drives were hosted by volunteer sponsor groups than required to meet typical patient needs. The Red Cross is encouraging Americans to download the organization's app for information on how to donate. Clayton Neville, Dallas.
Wichita Falls, Texas police say a woman's been banned from a Walmart after spending several hours driving an electric shopping cart around the store's parking lot while drinking wine. I'm Mike Moss.
Does your dog itch?
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners. 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
The 82nd Attorney General
of the United States, Mr. Eric Holder.
You're talking about taking away from an attorney general and from the executive branch core executive branch functions and moving them to the legislative side is something that's inconsistent with the federal constitution and the Wisconsin state constitution.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon on Real Resistance Radio.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The renovation of the dam in Milwaukee's Kletch Park will allow several different species of fish to swim up the Milwaukee River all the way from Lake Michigan to Grafton. The Gannett Company, which owns the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and USA Today, has officially received an unsolicited proposal to acquire the company from media company MNG Enterprises, also known as Digital First Media. And Milwaukee Alderman Tony Zielinski is getting criticism from his neighbors in Bayview after he had a 1921 colonial home torn down to build a towering 3-story, 40-foot-tall, 6,000 square foot mansion. Outside tonight, cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s, mostly cloudy tomorrow, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Monday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. The question we led with today, I think it's still valid, Dom. Is Donald Trump a Russian asset or is he Pooty Poot stooge? It can be one or the other, perhaps a little of both. But to think that this man is not guilty seems implausible at this point. Now, that doesn't mean he's not denying it. We played this earlier, but just in case some join us in hour 2, let's play it one more time. Donald Trump earlier today, it ain't me, no collusion, fake news, you know the normal, I didn't do it. Cut 14.
I never worked for Russia, and you know that answer better than anybody. I never worked for Russia. Not only did I never work for Russia, I think it's a disgrace that you even asked that question, because it's a whole big fat hoax. It's just a hoax.
I never worked for anyone. I'm an independent contractor. Right. We'll say I just do licensing of my name. Right? So that's all in his own mind. I don't think Donald Trump thinks, well, I work for Russia. I mean, I believe that aspect. I truly do. I don't think Trump thinks he works for Russia, but I think he is cowed every time he gets before Pooty Poot.
But why would he do that, right? Unless they got something over him.
Oh, because they've got compromising
and
stuff on him.
when you say work, do you mean employed by, contracted to? Or
I think he means the literal. If I don't get a W-2 from Putin,
I didn't work for you.
I don't work for the guy.
Were you influenced? Has your behavior, have you adjusted your actions because of any undue influence put upon you by your Russian financiers over the years? How about that question?
I would think probably yes. Max Boot, this is a conservative, an opinion piece at the Washington Post. Here are 18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset. I mean,
only 18?
On Friday, the New York Times reported that, and this is a quote, in the days after President Trump fired James B. Comey as FBI director, law enforcement officials became so concerned by the president's behavior that they began investigating whether he had been working on behalf of Russia against American interest, end quote. That investigation may well be continuing under the auspices of special counsel Robert S. Mueller. We don't know what Mueller has learned, but we can look at the key publicly available evidence that both supports and undercuts this explosive allegation. Here's some of the evidence suggesting individual one could be a Russian asset. Number one, Dom. Trump has a long financial history with Russia. It's summarized by Jonathan Chait in an invaluable New York Magazine article from 2003 to 2017. People from the former USSR made 86 all-cash purchases, a red flag of potential money laundering of Trump properties, totaling $109 million. 86 all-cash purchases, $109 million, more than $1 million per condo, Dom. In 2010, the private wealth division of Deutsche Bank also loaned him hundreds of millions of dollars. During the same period, it was laundering billions in Russian money. And that's not exactly a time when Donald Trump would have found a lot of liquidity for borrowing. I mean, he's a, 4-time, 6-time bankrupt loser? But only if you define loser as someone who fails to make a casino run profitably.
The LLC failed, Crudy. It wasn't Trump.
Dominic, Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets, said Donald Trump Jr. in 2008. We don't rely on American banks. We have all the funding we need out of Russia, boasted Eric Trump in 2014. According to Trump attorney Michael Cohen's guilty plea of lying to Congress, Trump was even pursuing his dream of building a Trump Tower during the 2016 campaign with the help of Vladimir Putin aid. These are all, wasn't he going to give Pooty Poot a $50 million condo on the top?
Yeah, a little cherry on top.
That's a hell of a cherry on top.
Well, you got to lift the sanctions off the financing bank in order to do that, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, some things have to get shuffled aside. These are the kind of financial entanglements that intelligence services such as FSB typically use to ensnare foreigners, and they could leave Trump vulnerable to blackmail. Don, why don't you take the next one?
Of 18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset, Max Boot, Washington Post. Here's another one. The Russians interfered in the 2016 U.S. election to help elect Trump president.
Are you sure that wasn't some 400-pound guy
in his basement, in his mom's
Jersey?
Basement? Another Crudy, Trump encouraged the Russians to hack Hillary Clinton's emails on July 27th. Russia, if you're listening, on the very day that Russian intelligence hackers tried to attack Clinton's personal and campaign servers.
But you're implying cause and effect there, Max Boot and Dominic. Here's the next one. There were, according to the Moscow Project, 101 contacts between Trump's team and Russia-linked operatives, and the Trump team tried to cover up every single one of them. The most infamous of these, the contacts, June 9, 2016, meeting at Trump Tower between Trump's campaign high command and a Kremlin emissary promising dirt on Clinton. Donald Trump Jr.'s reaction to the offer of Russian assistance. If it is what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer.
Crudy, the Trump campaign was full of individuals such as Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, and Michael Flynn with suspiciously close ties to Moscow.
That's where you get the best coffee from, because all these low-level baristas in the campaign here, right, Dom?
And Crudy, Manafort, who ran the Trump campaign for free and was heavily in debt to a Russian oligarch, now admits to offering his Russian business partner, who is suspected of links to Russian intelligence, polling data that could have been used to target the Russian social media campaign on behalf of Trump.
And I would suspect also a lot of Scott Walker data utilized, at least here in the great state of Wisconsin.
One more, Crudy, I'll go, then you can go. Trump associate Roger Stone, who was in contact with Russian conduit WikiLeaks, reportedly knew in advance that the Russians had hacked Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta's emails, and Stone has denied it.
Dominic, once in office, Trump fired Comey to stop the investigation of that Russia thing, and then bragged about having done so to the Russian ambassador, one of the Sergis, and foreign minister, while also sharing with them top secret information that he got from the Israelis, right? Yeah. He betrayed the Israelis in one fell swoop.
This Russia thing.
Later, Trump fired Attorney General Jeff Sessions because he would not end the special counsel investigation that resulted after the firing of Comey. As Lawfare editor Benjamin Witz argues, the obstruction was the collusion. Trump has been effectively protecting the Russians by trying to impede the investigation of their attack on the United States.
Give me a break.
Crudy, Trump has refused to consistently acknowledge that Russia interfered in the U.S. election or mobilize a government-wide effort to stop future interference. He has accepted Putin's protestations that the Russians did not meddle in the election over the high-confidence assessment of the U.S. intelligence community that they did. You remember, we have that? How long is that? A little cut from him in Helsinki.
What, Trump? I believe him.
I mean, this is, I mean, really, and a few of these things stick to me. I remember I was watching live when Trump said, "Hey, Russia, if you're listening." I thought to myself, what, are you freaking kidding me? And then when he was in Helsinki kissing Putin's ass, asked about the interference. So let's play a little bit of that.
All I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server.
I don't have any reason why it would be. Of course, then later he corrects it. Do you have the correction too? Let's play that.
I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia. So, just to repeat it, I said the word would instead of wouldn't, and the sentence should have been, and I thought it would be maybe a little bit unclear on the transcript or unclear on the actual video. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative. So you can put that in, and I think that probably clarifies things pretty good.
We're all good.
I'm less clear. But that clarifies a damn thing.
I mean, what an embarrassment. That's another one I was
He got caught using a little double negative in reference to Pootie Poot.
Yeah, because he's a cowering little bitch in front of the guy who's pulling the strings on him.
He couldn't even keep his story straight, even during the correction. And have you ever heard Donald Trump make any other correction publicly? Why that the unique,
right. Yeah, that's what,
unique time and rationale and reason, because he used a double negative?
Maybe that's why it sticks with me. So
I've got a grammatical error.
I'd like to correct.
I feel I must. Dominic, like no previous president, Trump attacks and undermines the Justice Department and the FBI, the quote, a cancer in our country. Two institutions that stand on the front lines of combating Russian espionage and influence operations in the United States. And again, like no previous president, Trump attacks and undermines the European Union and NATO. He has suggested that France should leave the EU and that the United States should leave NATO, reportedly saying NATO is as bad as NAFTA. The EU and NATO are the two major obstacles to Russian designs in Europe, Dom.
Trump supports populist pro-Russian leaders in Europe, such as Viktor Orban in Hungary and Marine Le Pen in France, just as the Russians do. Trump has praised Putin, a strong leader, while trashing just about everyone else, from grade B Hollywood celebrities to leaders of allied nations. Trump even praised Putin for expelling U.S. diplomats and, notwithstanding instruction from his aides, saying, "Do not congratulated Putin on winning a rigged election."
Trump was utterly supine in his meetings with Putin, turned his tummy up, principally in Hamburg and Helsinki. Even more suspicious, according to a Post article on Saturday, Trump has gone to extraordinary lengths to conceal details of his conversations with Putin, including on at least one occasion taking possessions of the notes of his own interpreter and instructing the linguist not to discuss what had transpired with other administration officials. Several officials said they were never able to get a reliable readout of the president's 2-hour meeting in Helsinki. No notes, Dom.
He defends the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, repeats other pro-Russian talking points, pulling troops out of Syria, handing that country to Russia and its ally Iran, has effectively done nothing in response to the Russian attack on Ukrainian ships in international waters, thereby encouraging greater Russian aggression. Trump is also sowing chaos in the government, most recently with a record-breaking partial government shutdown and acting appointees in key posts such as Defense Department and Justice Department, thus furthering a Russian objective of undermining its chief adversary.
Dominic, now that we've listed 18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset, let's look at the exculpatory evidence, but we'll do so on the other side. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates. The next segment, I hope it's a short one. We're not going to have a lot of time for all of that exculpatory evidence. Come back also. James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, joins us at the bottom of the hour. He'll help us get to the bottom of whether our president is a Russian asset or merely Putin's bitch. Come back. More Devils, Real Resistance Radio. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Russia, if you're listening, just remember what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening.
It's so bad!
I don't see any reason why it would be.
Ever worry that the anonymous millionaires are setting the agenda for our community with little or no accountability? I do. That's why I joined Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. My fellow members and I want to build a powerful and lasting progressive movement. Together, we can help determine the agenda in our own communities. Then we work with professional organizers and a team of leading strategists to make that agenda happen. We're working on health care, economic justice, child poverty, electing progressive candidates, and more. And our Radio Active campaign supports this station and the Resistance Radio Network. So, won't you come help us build a movement?
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
I went to pick up my boyfriend from work, and he had been drinking. He was upset with me. Suddenly, I was being strangled, and he slammed my head on the sidewalk. Every time I went into a courtroom, it just felt like I was pushed to the background.
No victim should be pushed aside and forgotten. Now legislators have a chance to help crime victims like Christina. Marcy's Law is a bipartisan bill that will update Wisconsin's constitution to strengthen the rights of victims, finally giving victims equal rights and protections. If the bill passes in January, voters will have a chance to approve it in April. Stand up for crime victims. Contact your legislators today and ask them to pass Marcy's Law right away.
Everybody can name a criminal's basic rights, but when asked what rights a victim has, I don't even think anybody would be able to say. That's why Marcy's Law is so important.
Paid for by Marcy's Law for Wisconsin, LLC.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, reading from a opinion piece at the Washington Post. Here are 18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset, written by conservative Max Boot. As we ended the last segment, I said, now that we've listed 18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset, let's look at the exculpatory evidence. And then underneath it says, this page left intentionally blank. And then Max Boot writes on, I can't think of anything that would exonerate Trump aside from the difficulty of grasping what once would have seemed unimaginable, that a president of the United States could actually have been compromised by a hostile foreign power. In his own defense, Trump claims he has been tougher on Russia than any other president. But literally in the next sentence he says, getting along with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing. When the United States actually has taken steps to get tough with Russia in the past 2 years, it has usually been a work of Congress. The 2017 Russia sanctions bill, or Trump aides expelling 60 Russian diplomats. The Post reports that Trump was furious when his administration was portrayed as being tough on Russia. And NBC News reports that he instructed subordinates never to publicly discuss plans to sell weapons to Ukraine.
Crudy, this is hardly beyond a reasonable doubt case that Trump is a Russian agent. Certainly not in the way that Robert Hansen or Aldrich Ames were, but it is a strong, circumstantial case that Trump is, as former acting CIA director Michael Morrell and former CIA Director Michael Hayden warned during the 2016 campaign, an unwitting agent of the Russian Federation or a useful fool who was manipulated by Moscow. If Trump isn't actually a Russian agent, he is doing a pretty good job of let me say that again.
Holy man.
I know.
Boy, did you just blow the landing. The Russian judge is going to give you like a 3.
Giving me a 10, man. If Trump isn't actually a Russian agent, he's doing a pretty good imitation of one.
Max Boot writes at the Washington Post. So what say you, Dom? I mean, it does seem, in light of just what we know publicly. I mean, I've been saying since Lester Holt, obstruction of justice. But until I saw that story drop on Friday night in the New York Times, I didn't really get it. I didn't really see. I just thought Trump was being Trump. Just firing people, take the pressure off the Russia thing. But what I didn't know was that he was already under significant suspicion at that time, that they had already effectively opened an investigation into him. And it was a counterintelligence investigation. I can't tell you if I know exactly what that means, other than the fact I hope I'm not under one or subject to one. But it means you're a danger to the United States, right? You are perhaps a compromised agent of a foreign power. And the New York Times doesn't come to any conclusions, Tom. But when you read the opinion piece of Max Boot, certainly our audience should. This man is compromised either knowingly or through stupidity, and I don't know what's worse.
Crudy, the New York Times article, well, they define it for us. The FBI conducts 2 types of inquiries, criminal and counterintelligence investigations. Unlike criminal investigations, which are typically aimed at solving a crime and can result in arrests and convictions, counterintelligence inquiries are generally fact-finding missions to understand what a foreign power is doing and try to stop any anti-American activity like thefts of U.S. government secrets or covert efforts to influence policy. In most cases, the investigations are carried out quietly, sometimes for years. Often, they result in no arrests.
Sure. But this man certainly seems guilty. I mean, he's striking out in a multitude of directions.
Crudy, I've been saying it. He's not going to make it out of 2019. This year will end. Trump will not be in the White House. I know what you think about some of these Republican senators. I think that the evidence is going to be so damning and so complete that even a guy like Ron Johnson will have to vote to impeach if it even comes to it. They're going to go to him like they did Nixon. Dude, you got to go.
Well, let's not forget, tomorrow, the congressional hearings begin on a new attorney general, a former Bushie, William Barr, I believe his name, Bill Barr.
Yeah, he gave out a lot of pardons back in the day.
No, you don't think that's an idea that the current POTUS would be all down for, do you, Don?
So how'd you do that then, Billy?
How do you pardon your way out of treason? We'll see what sort of legal advice he'll get. Now, Barr does claim, and testimony will come soon, that he's going to allow the Mueller investigation to go to its completion, for the sake of the American people, Dom. We're going to have a fine guest coming next. For the sake of the American people, he's former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, and when it's Mueller time, there's no one we'd rather have on the mic. Come back with us, Devils, Santelle, and you next.
If the president puts Russian salad dressing on his salad tonight, somehow that's a Russian connection.
You believe that story? You believe that?
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Here's how you get them. If someone invites you for a cocktail, you bring them beer. If someone invites you to dinner, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Yesterday on CNN, Senator Ron Johnson, who was criticized for spending the 4th of July in Russia with other Republican senators, defended the president against allegations he concealed details of meetings with Vladimir Putin. Johnson said Donald Trump is not a traditional president and that he has unorthodox means. And the partial government shutdown is affecting families in the Resistance Radio listening area. On Saturday, members of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists Union picketed outside Mitchell International Airport to draw attention to the dangers the shutdown is posing to airline passengers. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison: tonight, cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We welcome back a fine guest, a friend of ours. He is James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney. Jim, welcome back.
Mike and Dom, always good to be with you once again on a Monday afternoon.
Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure, man.
Well, I was going to say, I wish it wasn't under the circumstance that my president was a traitorous, treasonous bastard. But Jim, I don't want to use my words. Let me give you a quick quote from the New York Times. This one dropped Friday night. I feel quite confident you've read it, but for the sake of the audience, Jim, I'm going to ask you to comment on the reporting of the Times as thus: counterintelligence investigators had to consider whether the president's own actions constituted a possible threat to national security. Agents also sought to determine whether Mr. Trump was knowingly working for Russia or had unwittingly fallen under Moscow's influence. Those are some damning words, even if it was just the investigation. How can our president be investigated for these allegations? Jim, want to get your your comments, sir, on this reporting.
It is stunning. There's no doubt about it. Even the existence of the investigation itself, and as we will always do, we note that there has been no specific finding from this investigation. But again, just to go back a bit, there are criminal investigations, the kinds of things we've talked about before. We've used the example, for example, of a bank robbery or someone on Brady Street there involved in some sort of event. This is different. This is a counterintelligence investigation. The focus of it, as that quote just indicated, is what about threats to the safety and security of our nation posed by some foreign countries? And we're looking in particular about whether there are people who are agents of a foreign country or people who are targeted by a foreign country who are likewise causing some reason to believe that there's a safety and security threat. This is very significant. And again, I read into this a lot when it comes to what the FBI has already identified and could be identifying here, both before and after this all-important decision last year to open up this investigation.
Jim, does this cast prior reporting in a whole different light? Perhaps the reporting that Rod Rosenstein had been talking about 25th Amendment remedies and wearing a wire to a meeting with the president. In light of this newest reporting, can we now perhaps understand that maybe this wasn't a joke?
Well, and the example that you use is one of many that we can call forward. The way that I look at this is that up until now, we have always described the Mueller investigation as being on two prongs. One is the collusion, what I like to call the conspiracy side of things. Has he engaged in some sort of arrangement, some agreement? Have there been overt acts in furtherance of a conspiracy to deprive the people of a fair and decent election with Russians? And second, then we look at the obstruction of justice piece. In the course of the investigation of that conspiracy involving Russia, involving the campaign, have there been attempts to try to stop the wheels of justice from going forward? And we've always thought about those as sort of two separate tracks. The significance, I think, the legal significance of what we see over the weekend, Friday, and certainly Saturday's reporting as well, is that that dichotomy, that division of these two things is probably wrong, that the obstruction of justice may in fact be part and parcel, at least a part of the conspiracy itself. Why? Because if in fact it is the case that there was obstruction for the specific purpose of stopping the FBI efforts to learn how Moscow interfered in the 2016 election, things like the firing of Jim Comey, perhaps most notably, if that was being done, it very much could have fallen into the conspiracy itself. And so this counterintelligence investigation brings these two pieces together and indicates once again that the obstruction of justice is not necessarily apart from the conspiracy. It can be all one and the same. I can also comment to you about the significance of where we are in terms of this process. When it is no small thing, as your quoted material indicates and as your initial questions might indicate, the initiation of a counterintelligence investigation obviously is different from the initiation of a criminal investigation. Counterintelligence, a number of purposes. Yes, it could result in a criminal prosecution, but also could be used by the State Department for a diplomatic response, could be used by the Defense Department, by our spies, frankly, for espionage purposes. So a variety of different things. The thing that ties all of that together is that you do not initiate a counterintelligence investigation lightly. There are sort of two tranches, if you will. There's an initial preliminary investigation based upon the notion that there's a reasonable suspicion that a person might be an agent of a foreign government. And then if you develop that further, a secondary full investigation happens when you've got specific and what we call articulable facts that someone is in fact an agent. We don't know where this investigation is, but the other piece of this that I take away when I read these articles over the weekend is that this is not done lightly, and that we plainly probably once again do not know all that the FBI knows upon which they use to initiate these investigations. It's got to be a fairly significant and credible basis to open up the investigation itself. And again, my strong sense is that there are things in this investigation that prompted its opening and perhaps its pursuit that are yet not in the public domain.
Well, Jim, you referenced the firing of James Comey, and that was so troubling at the time. Anyone that watched the Lester Holt interview, it was to take the pressure off that Russia thing. But Rosenstein had given him justification. The Hillary Clinton emails and the way that James Comey handled that investigation. Effectively, Rosenstein gave the president an out, and he chose to ignore it anyways. And then he told the surgeons in the Oval Office, and then he went on Lester Holt and he told the world, no, I fired him to take the pressure off of Russia. James, wanted to talk about that and get your comments, sir.
Sure. And again, we've chatted before about the letter that Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, authored, perhaps at the request of the White House, to provide a arguably legitimate reason for firing. And as you just indicated, Mike, the president, for whatever reason, chose not to embrace that, at least not the central theory of that letter. And instead, as he told Lester Holt, because of this Russia thing, that's the reason why I decided to terminate Jim Comey. That event, it is now clear. Also, perhaps contemporaneous with that, we find out from this reporting that there was a draft letter that was being written to Comey, thanking him from the president for his work and noting that he is not, that is, the president is not a subject of investigation. That apparently never saw the light of day. But it appears that those two events, the Holt interview, as you just referenced, and this letter that never saw the light of day, those were also perhaps the final things that prompted the FBI to open up this counterintelligence investigation plainly long in advance of that. And not to belabor the answer to your question, but, you know, we've got back in July of 2016, publicly during the campaign, the president calls upon the Russians to hack emails. He praises President Putin during the campaign. Got the Republican Party softening its convention platform on Ukraine in a way that seems to support Russia. Got the dossier out there that is increasingly credible over time. And then we've also got this request, even before the Comey firing, of the president to Jim Comey, asking Comey basically for a loyalty pledge and asking if Jim Comey can somehow find his way to end that Mike Flynn investigation. You know, investigators look at all of that and they say, you know what? We at a minimum, as I said before, have to open this preliminary investigation, a reasonable suspicion. And again, you don't do this with respect to the President of the United States of America unless you've got perhaps even more than that. And that's why, once again, when you look at the Lester Holt situation, you look at everything that's happened even before the decision, still, there is probably great reluctance, as the reporting indicates, to do this for legitimate reasons. You're identifying as a subject, perhaps the target, the President of the United States of America. You don't do that absent a significant belief that you've got something there to investigate, some articulable, probably specific facts. And again, I think that's what's the unwritten portion of these reports over the weekend is what, is not there, and what the FBI probably also has in its envelopes and in its files here, upon which this investigation was opened and continues to work.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest live via phone. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Jim, I digress momentarily. Saw Peggy Noonan, conservative columnist on Meet the Press, heard her on Real Resistance Radio on Sunday, and Noonan asked a question aloud. If Trump indeed was in cahoots with the Russians, why would he be so blatantly obvious that his rationale for firing James Comey was to relieve the pressure of the Russian investigation? It seems like a logical question to ask, but Jim, do you have any comment on that?
You know, it is a logical question because our norms are, right, when we think about people who are engaging in whether it's counterintelligence and espionage and even crimes, is they typically do not go out there and say, look at me, look at what I'm doing, and draw the roadmap, if you will, for investigators to put together the search warrant, put together the indictment, and try the case. That's not normal conduct. At the same time, I will tell you that in my experience of both all kinds of cases, white-collar cases, document cases, drugs, guns, human trafficking, all sorts of things, international cases, it is not completely unusual that people are out there writing letters that end up in the public domain. Very, very famously throughout the country, in drug cases, in gun cases, we have defendants. I'm not equating this to those kinds of cases, but just in terms of the Noonan observation, people from time to time post on Facebook and on Instagram pictures of themselves in possession of large amounts of guns and drugs and those kinds of things. And once again, you think, why would you do that? And the answer remains a head scratcher, but it is not completely unprecedented. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I cannot purport to analyze what goes on in the president's brain when it comes to these kinds of things. But I think it's fair to say that he has not always been the most articulate and thoughtful person when it comes to saying things. And we get these kinds of statements. So the Noonan observation is a good one, but the reality is it only goes so far. There are situations where this president has said many things that are not in his interest. Certainly his lawyers have done the same thing. Even Rudy Giuliani, in response to this, has said some things that are not particularly helpful in terms of understanding it. And so we have precedent here for a president who has said this and other things that seem to be contrary to his interest, that are contrary to his interest, and they are simply out there. And they're for the most part, they stand as they are on their own. They're uncontested.
Jim, in light of the New York Times reporting, should we look at the departures in the FBI of James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, to name a few, or even at DOJ with Sally Yates and Bruce Orr and several others? Should we now look at that in a different light? I mean, it almost seems like he's trying to, get rid of the investigation by finding reasons, and perhaps earned or not, to get rid of some of these folks. What's your take?
Right. I think, once again, it's complicated. It's a great question because, again, when the history of this is written, we'll have the clarity and the answer to all that, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, as we go back and look at all these documents as they're eventually released and even as prosecutions go forward, if they do. I think the answer is somewhere in between. You can certainly look at specific things that happened along the way. Plainly Sally Yates, as we saw again just today, as the president once again invokes her name, not a favor of the president. But the reason that in the end he fired her was not related to this. It was because she, from my perspective, appropriately had declined to enforce through the courts and through assistant U.S. attorneys in this country the initial so-called Muslim travel ban. And so there are other reasons for departures and for people leaving along the way. But they may also be clouded by, and there'll be some aspects of this that as you get rid of a Sally Yates and you get rid of an Andrew McCabe, and certainly as you get rid of Jim Comey, these people who are professionals, they have served throughout their lives in these very responsible positions, and they're all folks who are going to do the right thing. It also, even if there are other legitimate reasons for their departures, even their terminations, the reality is it does have an impact overall upon the movement forward of these investigations. I think the Comey matter, the Comey firing, things said to him, stands out from among all those as being especially indicative and reflective, again, not just of obstruction of justice, but as we're talking today about the tie between this counterintelligence tie, and the conspiracy with Russia, which, again, the counterintelligence piece bringing this now all together.
Jim, we've got an attorney general nominee going up to the Senate beginning tomorrow, I believe. Bill Barr, formerly in the Bush administration. I saw statements reported by the press, CNN specifically, saying Bill Barr thinks that the Mueller investigation should continue to its conclusion and that these reports should be public. But Bill Barr's got a history of using the pardon to alleviate the pressure on prior presidential investigations and prosecutions, or at least those around him. I want to get your opinion of Bill Barr.
Sure. Bill Barr is one of the 9 attorneys general who served in that very important position while I was an assistant U.S. attorney, or then the U.S. attorney here in eastern Wisconsin. And like most of the other attorneys general of that time, and certainly even before my time, he is a fellow who understands the institution of the Department of Justice. He has been there before, plainly in the same capacity. He knows how it works. He understands, perhaps most importantly, the significance of the role of the department, the significance of, as we have talked before, the independence from the White House, certainly on specific cases. Policy generally, that you can have some connection to, but the importance of having that arm's length relationship, again, that I always make reference to Janet Reno and Bill Clinton as being the ultimate indicator of that 2 individuals both doing their jobs did not especially get along especially well, but had understood the importance of that. Bill Barr gets that. He is an institutional guy. At the same time, as your question indicates, Mike, the importance of what's going to happen in the next 2 days cannot be overstated. There are certainly expectations, and on both sides, hopefully, of the political aisle, that there'll be questions asked of the nominee about his plans. He has certainly indicated, as you just reflected, that he is not going to interfere. He's going to let it go ahead as much as Rod Rosenstein has to this point. And I think that, again, Republicans, Democrats on all sides should get that confirmation from him orally, stated clearly, plainly, going back to the Watergate time. Elliot Richardson said the same thing under some pressure. And when it came to the special investigation there of Richard Nixon with Jaworski and Archibald Cox, in the end, Elliot Richardson resigned because he lived up to his commitment to the Congress not to interfere with the investigation of Watergate and of Richard Nixon. And when Richard Nixon told him to do just that, rather than go contrary to what he had said.
Jim, let me interrupt. You got a few more minutes for us? Can we hold you over the break, sir?
I do, absolutely.
Come back with us. More of our fine guest, James Santelle, more Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
What'd you do? But regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse by the Democrats for having lost an election that they should have won.
That was a hoax, right?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. If you miss any of this fine program, please go to the website, domandcrute.com, realresistanceradio.com. You can download and listen to podcasts and interviews.
Dom, we got a fine guest. We've asked him to stick around, and he's a generous soul. He's agreed to stay. He is James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney. Jim, thank you. I got a few more questions at minimum. Jim, got to ask you about sort of another offbeat question. Donald Trump keeps saying, well, if there was any collusion, it was collusion between the Democrats and the Russians. And other than the fact, perhaps the Russians, the dirt that they offered on Hillary Clinton, maybe he thought he was getting dirt that Hillary had colluded with the Russians. I'm not at all clear what they're referencing. In fact, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson on Sunday said to Jake Tapper, well, the real collusion was the Democrats and this fusion GPS. Jim, do you understand how that could be construed as collusion? And if so, can you explain it to me, sir?
I will make this an uncharacteristically brief answer because the answer is no, I do not. And again, I tried to follow some of those arguments I think, candidly, this is just a linguistic throwaway comment, that rather than saying, yes, there is something to at least be investigated here, it's not me, it's just you. In looking at those things that reporting has sometimes indicated might be the subject of a Hillary Clinton or a Democratic engagement with foreign powers, I just don't see it. I don't identify what that is. I follow the facts of it, and it simply does not have the kinds of strength and the connections that we've talked about here and in other discussions. And so the short answer, once again, is it is another head-scratcher, and I think it's simply an attempt for those people who are not doing the kinds of analysis that we would hope from all sides of the political party would do, it's simply a way of saying we didn't do anything, you did something. And what that something is, I have never been able to properly identify and quantify in any real way.
Jim, the Washington Post article from Saturday, apparently Donald Trump, keeping the notes or not having any adults in the room when speaking to Putin, 5 times, and there's no notes, or at least notes that were taken away. What is your concern here, and does this open us up is this something that Congress or Mueller can investigate to get to, or is this presidential privilege, as Senator Johnson explains?
And again, this is certainly going to be at least the focus of requests for information, subpoenas, and certainly testimony, at least in the House of Representatives. And so in particular, we're talking about 2 meetings, a meeting in Hamburg in 2017, the statement that the president took the notes away from the folks who were doing the translation and perhaps made some statements to them about the importance of keeping these quiet. And perhaps most notably, because it's still in our memories, the Helsinki meeting with, again, President Putin in 2018. Once again, no translation, no private readout, no public readout, and what appears to have been a couple of hours, perhaps, of discussion with the president of Russia, and we've got no historical and no contemporary record on any of that. Is that significant for an investigation? Absolutely. And does it once again, as we go through this list of things that suggest that there is, in fact, this connection, whether it is a person who is an agent of the foreign government or at a minimum a connection that seems to implicate some issues about the safety and security of our nation, is that the kind of thing that investigators should be looking at? Absolutely. It's also the sort of thing that we can disagree and fight about executive privilege, which we have done in the past. Courts have traditionally not read that very broadly, as we know from, again, Richard Nixon and Watergate and other attempts on both sides of the political aisle to invoke that. It is difficult to believe that something like that is reports and summaries of discussions among the chief executives of 2 major nations on the face of this planet are somehow not relevant, not only to the public domain, but also relevant to an understanding of what, if anything, happened there. And to the extent that we are now looking again at a counterintelligence aspect of this, we're still looking at obstruction, conspiracy, all of this now wound together. What kinds of things were said in private by the president to the president of Russia? What things were said by Putin to our president? What kinds of, again, in the midst of his presidency, is that relevant to know? Absolutely. It's difficult to think of things that would be less relevant or more relevant than that. And so I have to believe that there will also be attempts not only on Capitol Hill, but through the investigations to get at those and to find out exactly what was said.
James Santelle, may you live in interesting times, sir. I think we've all been blessed by these interesting times we live in. Thank you so much, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, friend of ours. Thanks for joining us and being a resource once again, Jim.
Mike, Dom, always a pleasure. We'll talk again soon, I suspect.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
I sure hope so. Perhaps some new indictments coming.
Maybe by the end of the week.
We should have been betting every Friday night.
I'd have been way up.
Mueller likes indictments on Friday. I like it when it's the happy hour, and that commences right now on Real Resistance Radio.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608 266-5660. Tell them you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is gonna help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at Real Resistance Radio.
Shutdown delays. Trump denial. I'm Mike Moss. Airport security lines are growing as unpaid TSA workers are calling in sick on this 24th day of a partial government shutdown. Correspondent Renee Marsh says among the airports affected is the busiest in Atlanta.
They had to shut down security lines because of a lack of staff. Miami's not a small airport either. That's a major hub. So is Houston. That's a major hub as well. So we're seeing this play out at major airports.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is asking the president to reopen the government.
Open the government, then debate border security. President Trump started this shutdown. He's the person continuing.
But Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell blames Democrats.
What's happening here is the federal workers are paying for this far-left ideological crusade.
The president today said he is not inclined to declare a national emergency over border wall funding. The president's denying he ever worked for the Russians after a report that the FBI opened a probe into his relations with Russia after he fired FBI Director Comey. Correspondent Jessica Schneider.
Transcripts from closed-door congressional testimony with several FBI officials detail how the Bureau considered the possibility that the president fired Comey at the behest of the Russian government. Then FBI General Counsel James Baker told Congress about discussions at the time, saying, "We need to investigate because we don't know whether the worst-case scenario is possibly true or the president is totally innocent."
In prepared testimony for his Senate confirmation hearings, Attorney General nominee William Barr says he will not get in the way of the Mueller Russia probe. The suspect in the abduction of Jamie Kloss and the murder of her parents, Jake Patterson, has just been ordered held on $5 million bail. He made his first court appearance via jail video. The Dow was down to 86. I'm Mike Moss.
A new poll says more.
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santelle, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
To a hospital in Canada for surgery to repair a hernia, even though Canada has social medicine, which he opposes.
The Kentucky Republican senator will be treated at the Shouldice Hernia Hospital in Canada for an injury he suffered when he was attacked by his neighbor in late 2017. Senator Paul's neighbor was charged in that incident and sentenced to 30 days in prison. The Louisville Courier-Journal reports Senator Paul is suing his neighbor for medical costs that will include the hernia surgery. A spokeswoman for Paul says he is having the surgery at the Canadian hospital because it is a world-renowned hospital, which bills itself as the only licensed hospital in the world dedicated to repairing hernias. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Just in, a federal judge in Philadelphia has imposed a nationwide injunction on new Trump administration rules that allowed more employers to opt out of providing women with no-cost birth control. That order will affect all states throughout the country. I'm Mike Moss.
Does your dog itch?
5 Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider. specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy59s.com.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. The suspect in the Barron County kidnapping and murder case is making his first appearance in court today. 21-year-old Jake Patterson is accused of kidnapping 13-year-old Jamie Kloss and holding her for 3 months after killing her parents. Patterson was arrested on Thursday afternoon, shortly after Kloss escaped from the home where she was being held in Douglas County near Wisconsin's northern border. Milwaukee's Margaret Rosga has been named Wisconsin's new Poet Laureate, and the Bucks beat the Hawks yesterday 133-114. They're off today, then host the Heat at the Forum tomorrow night. Outside tonight, cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, it's a Monday happy hour. Welcome to it. And join us on the phones. You can always throw your voice here at 844-967-2789. Now, Dom, remember way back during the presidential debates, and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were having a little go-around, and Russia became the topic. I'm not sure if we've got this. We got this, right, Fancy Brian?
I mean, when Trump was kind of like stalking, lurking behind her, being all creeper?
Now, think back in retrospect, in light of the newest reporting from the New York Times, if he was in cahoots with Russia, and Hillary Clinton had the benefit of the Fusion GPS, the Steele dossier, she would know these allegations about Donald Trump. That would be at her disposal, right, informationally. So when she's in this debate with Donald Trump, she knows what the allegations against Donald Trump are, probably better than the public does. And at that time, we were all, well, we weren't all, but the Trumpsters, they were dismissive. I'm not a puppet, you're a puppet. We got the sound. Let's get to it. Where is it, Fancy Brian?
Cut number 79.
Look, Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race.
And it was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And Hillary's kind of right on the money. And today, Hillary Clinton on the Twitters, she was trolling Trump. She sent out this clip, the clip we just played for the audience.
Oh, that was from her today as
Hillary,
well. She
yeah.
repeated that on Twitter today?
I
Nice.
think it was something like, I told you all along he was a puppet.
He was literally breathing down my neck. My skin crawled.
Uh-huh.
And Dominic, Hillary Clinton wasn't the only one tweeting over the weekend. 48 hours and 35 tweets. Donald Trump's lost weekend morphs into a mad Monday morning meltdown. According to our friends over at the Raw Story, one of my favorite sources, President Donald Trump, unbuoyed by his former chief of staff, John Kelly, went on a bender this past weekend, and America is left with the hangover. No, the leader of the free world's drug of choice isn't alcohol. It's Twitter. And there was no one able to cut him off. The president isn't binge watching. He's binge tweeting. From Saturday morning at 7:05 a.m. to Monday morning at 7:35 a.m., President Trump launched 35 angry, narcissistic, lying, threatening, attacking, and often rapid-fire tweets and retweets. His targets, Nancy and Crying Chuck, a.k.a. the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Senate Democratic leader. Then there's Elizabeth Warren, often referred to him as Pocahontas. And he also threw like a Wounded Knee reference in.
Yeah, she did a short video of her and her husband, and he's just such an ass.
Wounded Knee, a historic massacre of Native Americans.
Right, yes.
And Jeff Bozo, the publisher of the lobbyist newspaper, the Amazon Washington Post, that would be Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Jeff Bezos, the founder of the publicly traded company Amazon.com, and separately, privately, the owner of the Washington Post. The two businesses are not linked. But facts like Amazon.com does not own the Washington Post are too trivial for this president, who was confronted with possibly the worst news yet in the Mueller investigation over the weekend. Trump has been using the 4-week-long shutdown to distract from the ripening Mueller investigation, which many believe is nearing a conclusion. On Friday, the New York Times, we've talked about this, revealed the FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation into the sitting president of the United States to determine if he is a Russian spy, a Russian asset, or in some way working for Russia and Vladimir Putin. On Saturday, the Washington Post reported Trump had gone to the extraordinary lengths to cover up his discussions with Vladimir Putin. He has refused to allow note takers in the room, and once, when there was a note taker, he took her notes and swore her to secrecy, all of which shed lights on Trump's Twitter tantrum, like this indecipherable attack on Bezos, or these juvenile attacks on his nemesis, the soon-to-be presidential opponent, Senator Elizabeth Warren. I'll spare you the tweets. Or his repeated theme that he's waiting in the White House for Democrats to come to the table, which they did, and he kicked them out and stormed out of the room. Trump gets much of his news from Fox and Friends. Dems in Puerto Rico has shut down hits day 24 at Fox and Friends. At least he gives attribution, Dom. And there was also this thread, apparently a quote, who can tell, from alleged white supremacist Pat Buchanan. Of course, there are his attacks on migrants, tying them to sexual predators, despite many of them being asylum seekers. And the president also retweeted RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel, who has become one of his top protectors. That must be RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. This tweet is especially egregiously misleading. Almost all of the 90% of heroin that comes from the south of the border comes in through legal ports of entry, not smuggled by migrants crossing the Rio Grande or climbing over a wall. I'm almost at the conclusion, Dom. The Washington Post, Trump's favorite paper, explains that while 90% of the heroin sold in the United States comes from Mexico, virtually all of it comes through legal points of entry. So a wall isn't going to change that. But again, facts are too trivial for this president, and the longest-running shutdown of the federal government continues with no end in sight. I mean, he likes this. There's news that the BuzzFeed, someone tweeted at us.
The Daily Caller, I think Dave tweeted out to us,
is saying, effectively, the Trump administration does not want to bring back the furloughed federal employees. They want to effectively, clean house 25% of all federal employees because they must be non-essential.
Senior anonymous Trump administration official.
So we don't need TSA at the airport? It's going to make flying with weed a whole lot easier.
Crudy, also over the weekend, now we heard Trump today come out specifically say, we're going to play it. We played it a lot. Maybe we'll play it again. He specifically said he is not working for Russia.
I am not a crook.
Believe it's cut 14.
I never worked for Russia, and you know that answer better than anybody. I never worked for Russia. Not only did I never work for Russia, I think it's a disgrace that you even asked that question, because it's a whole big fat hoax. It's just a hoax.
It's a hoax. Now, Trump, over the weekend, Crudy, he had to come out today and clarify, because over the weekend he was on Fox News with Jeanine Pirro, and she asked him the same question. He was a little less articulate. Let's play cut 1.
Are you now, or have you ever worked for Russia, Mr. President?
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written. And if you read the article, you'd see that they found absolutely nothing. But the headline of that article, it's called The Failing New York Times for a reason. They've gotten me wrong for 3 years. They've actually gotten me wrong for many years before that. But you look at what's going on.
Look at what's going on.
James
Here it comes.
Comey. I call him Lion James Comey because he was a terrible liar, and he did a terrible job as the FBI director. Look at what happened with Hillary Clinton and the emails and the Hillary Clinton investigation, one of the biggest screw-ups that anybody's ever seen as an investigation. And what happened after I fired him, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, his lover, Lisa Page, they did it. And, you know, they're all gone. Most of those people, many, many people from the top ranks of the FBI, they've all been fired or they had to leave, and they're all gone. This is what they were talking about, and obviously nothing was found. And I can tell you this, if you ask the folks in Russia, I've been tougher on Russia than anybody else, probably any other president, period. But certainly the last 3 or 4 presidents, modern-day presidents, nobody's been as tough as I have from any standpoint, including the fact that we're doing oil like we've never done it. We're setting records in our country with oil and exporting oil and many other things. So, which is obviously not great for them, because that's where they get their money for the most part. But many other things. So I think it was a great insult, and the New York Times is a disaster as a paper. It's a very horrible thing they said, and they've gone so far that people that weren't necessary believers are now big believers, because they said that was a step too far. They really are a disaster of a newspaper.
Wow, you know, I did not hear in that rambling answer
a denial. He denied today. He got around to denying today.
I know, but come on.
He was just so insulted, Tom.
Oh, it's insulting. Ask anybody. The New York Times, Comey, Hillary, McCabe, Strange Pac, the lover.
Well, I guess I have good genes.
Ask Russia, oil exports, and many other things.
Did he point out 2 things that I find very ironic? James Comey, a terrible liar, not nearly as skilled as this president.
Trump is a consistent liar.
And he talks about Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok, some of the people that have been removed and eliminated at the FBI. But let's talk about your administration. I mean, your campaign manager's in jail. Your former national security advisor has pled guilty. Your attorney has pled guilty. I mean, most of his senior staff have gone, be it Kelly, be it Mattis, be it Reince Priebus, be it Scaramucci. I mean, I can go down the list.
Scaramucci's on like Big Brother or something now.
Celebrity Big Brother. Please get it right. Well, that could spice things up. I might have to watch that show.
There was a difference.
It's such a good show. Entering celebrities into it just ruins the whole thing. But by the way, same exact producer as The Apprentice.
Ah, nice.
Mark Burnett?
Yeah. He's
and isn't that Les Moonves's wife who hosts that?
Yes. She actually started introducing herself as
with her maiden name?
No, with his name.
Oh, really?
To support him.
Let's do one more before the 420 break. 844-967-2789.
Let's hurry up, man.
You
420 break couldn't get here soon enough for my taste.
The former attorney Michael Cohen, Jeanine Pirro on the Foxy News asked any concern about his congressional testimony upcoming.
February 7th, he'll be live.
Cut number 3.
I was a client of his.
Client?
You know, you're supposed to have lawyer-client privilege, but it doesn't matter because I'm a very honest person, frankly. But he's in trouble on some loans and fraud and taxi cabs and stuff that I know nothing about.
Paying off some porn stars.
In order to get a sentence reduced, he says, I have an idea. I'll give you some information on the president. Well, there is no information, but he should give information maybe on his father-in-law.
What?
Because that's the one that people want to look at. Because where does that money? That's the money in the family. And I guess he didn't want to talk about his father-in-law. He's trying to get his sentence reduced. So it's pretty sad. It's weak, and it's very sad to watch a thing like that. I couldn't care less.
What is his father-in-law's name?
I don't know, but you'll find out, and you'll look into it, because nobody knows what's going on over there. Again, I was a client. He has a law firm. They broke into his law firm sometime early in the morning, I guess, and they took it. This couldn't happen to anybody, except you're dealing with McCabe, you're dealing with the remnants of Comey, and wait till you see how it all ends up. You watch. McCabe, Lisa Page, Strzok. You wait till you see how that all ends up, including some others that I could name, but I better not. We'll make front page news if I do.
He's got others, man. Trump's holding on to the info.
Is that what he's doing? Wow, is he helping himself by going on Judge Janine's?
He literally said, and I don't know if we'll get to the sound, as he was wrapping up one of his rambling statements, that one of the legacies of his administration will be all the corruption that he helped uncover in the Justice Department and the FBI.
What'd Ron Johnson call it? Secret societies. Hashtag deep state. Hashtag witch hunt. Hashtag no collusion.
Hashtag I love Putin.
Hashtag no W2.
Hashtag I'm an independent contractor.
We are the Devil's Advocates, always independent contracting our way through weekday afternoons. You can join us here on the phones. They're open for you at 844-967-2789.
Time to get going. What lies ahead, I have no way of knowing. But under my feet, baby, grass is growing.
They hire usually good people. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer at my firm.
I'm a very honest person, frankly.
Believe me.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice, sir. What should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
The sundown, shining in.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube and on Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line, 844-967-2789.
Dominic had a fine guest in the last hour, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. We thank him as always. He said he worked once upon a time for former Attorney General William Barr. And William Barr has been nominated once again to be Attorney General again. And there is new polling out. Jordan Carney reporting at thehill.com. Majority say senators should oppose Trump's AG pick without Mueller commitments. I am with the majority on this one. I'm against Ron Johnson, I suspect. He's not going to hold Barr to any sort of standard of protecting the Mueller investigation. But let me read. A majority of Americans say senators should oppose William Barr's Attorney General nomination unless he makes specific comments about protecting Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. A poll conducted by the left-leaning Public Policy Polling, obtained by The Hill ahead of its release, found that 53% of respondents believe their senator should vote against Barr's nomination unless he makes a public commitment that he will let Mueller publicly release his findings, compared to 36% who said they should vote to confirm him regardless. And 58% said their senator should oppose Barr's nomination if he doesn't make specific public commitments that he will let Mueller follow the facts and complete the investigation without any interference, compared to 33% who said their senator should vote to confirm him even if he does not. And in both instances, more than 60% of independent voters say they believe their senator should oppose Barr unless he makes the public commitments. What say you, Dom? Independent-ish, Dom.
Yeah,
compared to me at least.
Yeah, well, but so what? I mean, whatever he says doesn't matter. Once he's in, he's in. And then you got to worry about that then. Good luck getting him out.
So you don't think any public pronouncements of independence matter? You think he's going to do whatever Trump wants him to do?
I think based on what I've seen in this administration, absolutely not. You say whatever the hell you want, anytime you want, and so what if a month later or a day later you go back and contradict yourself? Oh, well.
You know who I've seen it reported is Bill Barr's best friend?
Who?
And this is not an accusation made by Donald Trump. Robert Mueller. Their wives are like Sunday school teachers together. That is word on the street. That is reporting I've read. I felt like it's credible reporting. I don't go to those sites you go to, dark web stuff.
Yeah, you do. You blame me when you do. Crudy, the Mueller report itself.
Are we talking Russia or porn now?
The Mueller report. I want to get one more out there from Janine Pirro. Should it become public, let alone letting the guy do the job? Once the report comes out, should we know that Pirro asked Trump, are your lawyers working on working to keep the Mueller report from the public?
Yes, they are.
Let's do cut 5.
Are your lawyers working to keep the Mueller report from being made public?
Well, I can't tell you because I don't devote too much time. Here's the bottom line. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. There was no anything. So, no calls to Russia, no nothing. So, it's all nonsense, Janine. It's a hoax. It's called the Russian hoax or a witch, it's a witch hunt. And it's a shame. And, despite that, what we're doing is amazing. But actually what we're doing in this, too, because we're exposing people that are corrupt. People are being exposed by this that are totally corrupt. A lot of the people that don't get mentioned even in that article today, the phony article in the New York Times, there's a lot of corruption, and we're exposing it. And I'm going to put that down someday as one of my greatest achievements.
Donald Trump ferreting out corruption in the FBI?
Dom, just for the record, I've got the Newsweek as my source. So, who knew that William Barr, Trump's nominee to become Attorney General and overseer of the investigation, is genuinely a close friend of Mueller? Apparently, Lindsey Graham said, I didn't know that they were so close personally. Graham, who met privately with Barr on Wednesday, said they'd been personal friends for over 20 years. The relationship went beyond working together at the Justice Department during the H.W. Bush administration. Graham said Barr and Mueller's wives attend Bible study together, and Mueller has attended the wedding of two of Barr's daughters. Who'd do that to a close friend? I'd do it to you. If you gotta go, you gotta go. We're the Devil's Advocates. Gotta go to break. Come back with you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
We're totally prepared for a very long shutdown.
Talk it out, man.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because every single day we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
I went to pick up my boyfriend from work, and he had been drinking. He was upset with me. Suddenly, I was being strangled, and he slammed my head on the sidewalk. Every time I went into a courtroom, it just felt like I was pushed to the background.
No victim should be pushed aside and forgotten. Now legislators have a chance to help crime victims like Christina. Marcy's Law is a bipartisan bill that will update Wisconsin's constitution to strengthen the rights of victims, finally giving victims equal rights and protections. If the bill passes in January, voters will have a chance to approve it in April. Stand up for crime victims. Contact your legislators today and ask them to pass Marcy's Law right away.
Everybody can name a criminal's basic rights, but when asked what rights a victim has, I don't even think anybody would be able to say. That's why Marcy's Law is so important.
Paid for by Marcy's Law for Wisconsin, LLC.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Stu Daniels with your headlines. Yesterday on CNN, Senator Ron Johnson, who was criticized for spending the 4th of July in Russia with other Republican senators, defended the president against allegations he concealed details of meetings with Vladimir Putin. The suspect in the Barron County kidnapping and murder case is making his first appearance in court today. And the partial government shutdown is affecting families in the Resistance Radio listening area. On Saturday, members of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialists Union picketed outside Mitchell International Airport to draw attention to the dangers the shutdown is posing to airline passengers. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison tonight: cloudy skies, lows in the upper 20s. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, highs in the mid-30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. The happy hour continues. Getting a little nervous. Our producer wasn't coming back from the 420 break in a timely or prudent fashion.
I was worried too.
Snuck in right at the last.
Always.
Made it under the wire, Fancy Brian. Dom, you had an article I thought you wanted to get out there. The media. I understand we should just take a couple weeks off and chill, right? Well, I think Fancy Brian's well on his way to a furlough.
Maybe the next break. Donald Trump on Monday lobbed yet another barb at the press. That's you and me, Crudy, suggesting fake news should take 2 weeks off and come back rested.
Woo! I could use some time off. I've been working too hard.
Is that a furlough, or do we get paid for that? I mean, how exactly does that work? Here's the Trump tweet.
You can expect to be without pay during that furlough.
Oh, come on. No back pay, Glenn Grothman? You and Glenn, you both think the same. Here's Donald Trump's thought.
I do love meatloaf.
The fake news gets crazier and more dishonest every single day. Amazing to watch as certain people covering me and the tremendous success of this administration have gone truly mad. Their fake reporting creates anger and disunity. Take 2 weeks off and come back rested. Chill.
Chill, baby, chill.
Chill. The big chill. Trump telling us to chill. Trump telling us to chill. Just relax. Don't worry about the fact that I take the notes from my interpreter during my Trump meetings, that I've had 5 meetings with the Russian boss and nobody knows what was discussed. Don't worry about all of that. It's all fake news, Crudy. Don't you know? Take a couple of days off. It'll all blow over by the time you get back.
Do a little day drinking. Right? Well, that's just the Wisconsin fake news media. Maybe I only speak for my colleagues from the Badger State.
What?
Dominic, we have apparently another entry into the Dem presidential field, or at least we will this week, or so reports thehill.com. Gillibrand to kickstart 2020 White House bid before weekend trip to Iowa. Michael Burke reporting Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, is expected to announce this week that she is forming an exploratory committee for a 2020 presidential bid. According to a source familiar with the plans, the move would represent a formal step towards seeking the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020. Gillibrand would join Senator Elizabeth Warren as the second Democratic senator to announce forming an exploratory committee. But Dom, over the weekend, Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro also officially launched his White House bid on Saturday. Plans for announcement from Gillibrand this week were first reported by the Associated Press on Monday, which cited sources familiar with her plans. One person told the AP that Gillibrand will likely make the announcement before she visits Iowa this weekend. And the news comes after BuzzFeed News reported that Gillibrand signaled in a meeting with about 20 influential women on Saturday that she will seek the presidency. Gillibrand is set to appear on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert on Tuesday, my favorite. I wonder if she'll make a big announcement. And Dom, she joins a growing field. Speculation about a 2020 bid has surrounded Gillibrand for months. She's told CNN in December that she was definitely thinking about running, and the Democratic primary field is likely to be especially crowded in 2020. Bring it on, Dom. With a range of other high-profile politicians, including former Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and we also found out Tulsi Gabbard. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard threw herself out there this weekend as well, although I wonder about the electability of a Hindu. Is that an issue?
What do you mean?
Pretty much you got to be, a white Christian to be elected president, or at least historically speaking, that has been the case, or at least you got to fake it like Donald Trump does. But a Hindu president, I don't know if the people could take that.
I mean, people still care about that? As the resident atheist, Crudy, I don't give a damn. Whatever gets you through the night. But, I mean, do you think...
I'm not sure that Bernie is firmly rooted in Judaism. I think he's a non-practicing. But I would say Hinduism might be a step too far for some.
Why? How many Hindus?
Other than Apu,
there's a lot of Hindus in this world, man.
Other than Apu on The Simpsons, I think very few Americans have any experience with the Hindu faith.
What?
Well, other than Apu, name another person I know you can't do it.
Hinduism has over 1 billion followers,
but not in the
worldwide.
United States. I mean, other than perhaps India, buddy, Hinduism is not one of. I mean, I know numerically it's one of the big ones, but not in the United States. How many American Hindus? It's a very low percentage. Very low.
I understand that. But let me ask you this. I'm not going to worry about the Republicans because, Republicans are Republicans. Do you think that someone of that particular religion running in a Dem primary would get grief because of their faith?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I'd be interested to see if progressives, if Democrats, if liberals would go there, but someone's going to go there. They see her as a threat. She was a protege of sorts of Bernie Sanders.
But when you attack someone's religion, I mean, you don't do that, right? You don't do that, Dems. Do you do that, Dems? You attack people's religion or lack of religion?
There are going to be some sharp elbows. What happened here in the state of Wisconsin, that gubernatorial field that, shared the mic and always held their answers to 1 to 2 minute responses depending on the forum, that ain't going to be the case in this presidential. If you think you're going to go up against Donald Trump, you're going to have to demonstrate that you're willing to throw elbows, that you're tough enough. And I think it's going to come up eventually.
That means
and if
insulting
it's not
the religion of 1 billion people on this world? I mean, you think that's wise, politically speaking, let alone not hypocritical, based on the platform that you claim to run on, Dem?
I'm just telling you, look under American registered Hindu voters, it is a very small percentage. I think there are some that will start some sort of whisper campaign. It's foreign. I mean, they started the thing about Obama, secret Muslim, despite the fact he eats bacon, drinks beer, and apparently attended the Church of Reverend Wright. But that was all, his cover story, so it could be a secret Muslim.
A super secret Muslim.
I'm not sure if Tulsi Gabbard is a qualified candidate. 3 years in the House. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it would be a fairly unprecedented thing for a modern president to come from the House of Representatives. I'm not sure if she's got the chops. Also, there was that meeting with Bashad, right? Assar.
Yeah, she went to Syria without telling anybody till after the fact.
Well, that's kind of a no-no in terms of foreign policy. I mean, Donald Trump might get away with that crap, but I don't know that she will. Again, I think that might be an issue. She has also, I don't want to say been bigoted in the past, but another critique of her is she's been anti-homosexual marriage. Now, so were most Democrats not too many years ago. Let's not forget, Uncle Joe Biden had to drag Barack Obama on that topic, kicking and screaming, got out in front of the boss. But I'm not sure, Dom. I mean, she will make the field more interesting, but this will be an ever-expanding field. I heard our pal Sherwin this morning say, but is it good optic to declare your candidacy for the presidency in the midst of a 24-day governmental shutdown? Is that the best time to announce? Or perhaps you hold off till the federal employees get to cash some checks?
844-967-2789, Crudy. According to India Today, Hinduism becomes the 4th largest faith in the United States. Back in, 2015, up to 0.7%.
0.7%. And you extrapolate against registered voters and... I don't know if that would be the margin of victory in the state of Wisconsin. What Trump won by 23,000 votes. I don't think all of the Hindus in the United States in cumulative as a voting bloc would have that sort of impact.
Quora.com, Hindus, about 3.23 million, around 1% of the population in the United States.
I stand corrected. Do you assume she would get all the Hindu votes?
What a terrible party. And I know your suggestion is thrown out there. Perhaps some people would take objection to that, but you don't do that. Really? I mean, if I'm going to judge people by their religion, then everybody's screwed. Because I don't believe any of it. I'm going to sit there and judge you because of it?
Does it depend on which Hindu god you believe in? Because apparently there's like 800 of them, right?
I don't know.
Here's why I'd have to rule her out. If she is a practicing Hindu, she doesn't eat steak, man. You can't vote for someone who can't have a steak.
Well, what do you got against
I'd never elect a
vegan,
a Hindu, people that don't eat red meat. I just got a problem with
Hey,
them.
man, if you're a believer and you're concerned about climate change, all those cows, there's a lot of flatulence. Maybe you want to reconsider that thought, Curdy.
It's all a hoax, man. You believe that global climate change thing?
It's a hoax. It's a big fat hoax.
I think your mind is addled. You just need more protein. Beef, it's what's for dinner. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. The 5 a.m. signal's turning off now, but we always stream live at realresistanceradio.com. And, of course, most importantly, crudeanddom.com. Come back with us. The phone line's open. One last segment for your calls at 844-967-2789. Boo.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do.
That was a hoax, right?
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we are an AM daytime radio station, this now concludes our broadcast day. But you don't have to leave us. We do stream online 24/7 at realresistanceradio.com. That's realresistanceradio.com. Or check us out on the TuneIn app at WRRD. For those of you already streaming, we now continue regular programming, and please welcome your friends from the radio. Say hello, everyone. WRRD 1510 AM and WTTN 1580 AM, Real Resistance Radio. Good night, everyone.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day, but you can still join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, have you picked a front runner? Do you have a horse in the race yet on the Democratic side? We are seeing an ever-expanding field.
Oh, man. There's just too many already. I voted for Bernie in the primary, like Kim. Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. I mean, they were around last time.
Yes.
Well, Elizabeth didn't run for president, but she was certainly on tour. We've seen her. So, they kind of stick in my mind a little bit. If the Dems are going to step out like the Republicans did last time and have 20 people in the field, everyone can do it. It's the right. I get it.
But what if we have good candidates, unlike the Republicans?
That would be man. They all say they got good candidates.
Come on,
Just
Ted Cruz.
Just ask them, man.
Marco Rubio.
Ted Cruz took Wisconsin by like 20 points. Man, Republicans love themselves some Ted Cruz.
It wasn't quite 20, but it was an embarrassment to the state of Wisconsin that Republicans would be all down for Ted Cruz because righty whitey talk radio told them to be. I saw Ted Cruz over the weekend. What a disgrace he is to humanity. I don't mean the Senate. I mean just the humankind. He is a snaky SOB.
But Biden, Biden's out there too. I don't know. I mean,
my wife told me Joe Biden is her guy. And I'm like, why Joe Biden?
Why Uncle Joe, man?
He's not a Hindu. No. I tease.
On, man.
She just thinks America's ready for normalcy. And she thinks that, he's got the right combination of genuineness.
But he's kind of a, back rubby.
I said that to her. She seemed undissuaded by my saying, he's a sniffer and a toucher. And you don't like it when I do those things, honey. How are you going to be okay with the vice president?
I get it. I'm a hugger. I get there, families, depends on how you grow up. Some people are much more touchy-feely than others. I understand that. But he's also been around a long time.
He would be the traditional president. He would bring back a sense of normalcy. I think that was her point. And she doesn't feel like she is concerned about the Elizabeth Warrens and the leftists, those that I might be abrasive of, because right now, Elizabeth Warren, my front runner, I'm always subject to persuasion.
You would take Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders at this point.
Well, he's not in yet. But right now, yeah, I would have picked Elizabeth Warren in 2016 over Bernie Sanders.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No doubt. She was my candidate. She is my candidate. Until I'm persuaded otherwise, she will remain my candidate.
Is there any...
talking about Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. Is there any differences in platforms, or is this specifically style points?
I think it's the humanity she brings to the position, the way she works a rope line, the way she gives a stump speech, and I think it's her background. Her background is someone that researched personal bankruptcies. I think she's in it for the people, and I think people respond to her. And I know that righties hate her. I know the president's already castigated her, Pocahontas and Warren won 2020th. Any way they can cast aspersions upon her, I think that's because they fear her, because she is a true populist, and Donald Trump played a faux populist when he got elected the first time. And we're not going to get to the Tucker Carlson, but, even Tucker Carlson this past week on Fox News talked about the runaway capitalism's a bad thing. And while I certainly think Bernie Sanders was a great messenger, Elizabeth Warren also very disciplined on the stump. You could ask her a question. She's going to answer the way she wants to answer, what she thinks is important. Now, if she does that to us, if she comes in studio and won't answer our questions,
that's a great,
I might hold it against her.
Right.
But right now, she's my candidate. My wife, currently a Uncle Joe Biden. And apparently, so far, you're hoping on Bernie?
I haven't. I have no choice. I'll wait till the full field flushes out, and then I'll make my choice. But Crudy, Trump was asked the same question: who you want to run against? He was on Jeanine Pirro this weekend. Very concerned.
Hillary. He'd like to run against Hillary again.
Doubt. Let's hear if you would fancy Brian cut number 8.
Well, I don't want to pick anyone out, but, a lot of people say Biden's doing okay, but, he was always a 1%er. He was a 1% guy. He ran 2 or 3 times. He never got above 1%. And then Obama came along and took him off the trash heap, and he became a vice president, and now he's probably leading. But he's basically a 1% guy. He's weak. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with him. But I think he's leading right now from what I understand.
Really?
But I'll be watching, and whoever it is, I think we're going to do just fine.
Yeah, because you're not going to run again.
Well, that's what you say. Christine Phillips at the Washington Post says this. President Trump called former Vice President Joe Biden a weak man when asked Saturday night about a growing list of Democrats seeking to topple him in 2020. Trump, who prizes strength, attacks his enemies as weak and has often resorted to name-calling. I like that as well. Resurrected previous insults against Biden as the former U.S. Senator from Delaware mulls his third presidential bid. He mocked Biden's 2 unsuccessful attempts for the White House and said former President Barack Obama, you heard it, folks, took him off the trash heap when he tapped Biden to be his vice president. He's weak, so we'll see what happens. Whatever it is, I think we're going to do just fine, Trump told Fox News' Jeanine Pirro. Biden's spokesperson declined to comment. But Trump made similar comments about Biden during an interview with CBS News in July when he said that running against the former vice president would be a dream. Biden, 76, unsuccessfully sought the Democratic presidential nomination in 88 and 2008. He considered running again in 16, but decided against. Saying his family was still recovering from the death of his son, Beau, from brain cancer. In December, he said he's the most qualified person in the country to be president. Biden said that, and that he would make a decision this month on whether he would run. We've talked about the large crowd that's growing, Dom. But during a December interview with author and television personality, I've jumped down here, Bruce Feiler, Biden acknowledged his reputation as a gaffe machine, a wonderful quality compared to a guy who can't tell the truth, according to Biden. And Biden unleashed some of his fiercest criticisms of Trump during a speech in Kentucky in October when he said the president has debased American values and ceded global leadership to tyrants and thugs. Said something similar here in Milwaukee, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
For example, we're showing the rest of the world is sad. Our values are being shredded. Our democracy's under assault. A president has put his own interests before those of our ideals, Biden said. In an interview with the Palm Beach Post, Frank Biden said his older brother has the best chance at winning over disaffected Democrats whom the party lost to Trump in 2016. I don't necessarily disagree
I think that's a good
with
point.
that assessment.
Yeah, blue collar, he connects with a lot of the blue collar kind of folks.
Well, I know he's from Schenectady. He said some relatives voted for Trump because they felt slighted by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. And here's the conclusion. The decision the party has to make is almost an existential one. Are we going to go with someone that everyone implicitly trusts, has confidence in, and no one doubts Joe's ability to do the job, Frank Biden said? Who do you think that the disaffected Republicans and disaffected Democrats that we need to win over to win Pennsylvania, to win Michigan, to win Wisconsin, to win Ohio, to win Florida, as a strictly Machiavellian question, who is best positioned to win those folks back? And it just may be Joe Biden.
He was VP for 8 years with Barack Obama.
And a senator, and he headed
around.
up, I believe, Foreign Relations Committee. Certainly way more qualified than Donald Trump. Not a pathological liar, as near as I can tell, Dom. That'd be a nice, refreshing change from the current administration.
We've fallen so far that everyone else's faults look minor in comparison to a American president who might be beholden to Russian interests.
You know, about 4.5 months from now, there will be Dem presidential debate starting in June of 2019. We're in that year.
And you think it's going to get sharp? You think it's going to be a lot of elbows?
I think it would have to.
Nastier than the Dems were here in the state of Wisconsin running for governor?
Well, there was no nastiness, excluded. There was no nastiness amongst the field in Wisconsin. There were a bunch of nice people, running not to offend anyone, and no one was offended, and Tony Evers won. And Tony Evers was the front runner from the get-go. And I've got a question, if a guy like Joe Biden gets out front, and he's not nasty, he's just nice guy Joe, and rubs some shoulder and sniffs some pretty hair, is that enough? Can he just keep his mouth shut and just be a nice white guy like you're used to seeing, the old, respectable white guy?
White guys, really? That's, to me, that's not a positive. We've had lots of old white guys. I think we need to go in a different direction.
I mentioned Kamala Harris to my wife, and I'm not trying to throw my wife under the bus, but she said America's not ready for a black woman, to her opinion. Not in the role of the presidency, not immediately following the orange Cheeto
I
Jesus.
think
he's
an
wrecked it.
African-American female president would be exactly what we need after the orange guy. Why not? Really? Really? But that's...
Between the racism and the misogyny, I think it would be a hard ticket. I think Kamala Harris, very impressive. I am very impressed by her. If ultimately she was the nominee, I would certainly be supportive of her.
Sure.
I would certainly endorse her. I would certainly vote for her.
But
it's a tough dynamic, man.
For who? Are you talking about the primary, the Democratic primary here? Or are you talking about the general election?
I would say both.
So you think the Democratic Party in this country has a problem with racism and misogyny?
I live in Madison, Wisconsin. The state of Wisconsin overall has the highest disparate outcomes for African Americans in the nation. The city I live in, one of the most liberal cities in America, it's got some of the worst outcomes for African Americans in the nation. If you think progressives can't be also racist, whether they mean to be or not, you don't think that is an affecting thing? We don't see a lot of
already an African-American president that went through the Democratic primary process.
Not a woman.
And won, and now, but that was years ago now.
And the blowback to Barack Obama was Donald Trump. That's how bad America is. Donald Trump is a direct reaction to a reasonable, uncorrupted, intelligent, constitutional scholar who also happens to be a black man.
From Kenya.
And a secret Muslim besides. Thank you all for listening. We're out of time. Want to thank our fine guest today, James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney. Thank you all for listening. We'll keep doing it each day at least until Trump's no longer our president. Dom thinks that could be quick. I'm less convinced, less optimistic. I'm not holding my breath. But I will do it again on the radio for you tomorrow. Please tune in. RealResistanceRadio.com. Always streaming live.
Are you now, or have you ever worked for Russia?
No. Yes. A bit.
Can we call that treason? Why not?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you